Yo, what's good? This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Kicker Club. I want to give a big shout out to Kicker Club because not only do they support the skate community in China, but they are also the first to sponsor this podcast, so I'm super excited. I've been following Kicker Club for a long time now and have worked with them a bunch over the years. They've been around since 2001, supporting events and are actively trying to be a part of the skate community at a grassroots level. You can find Kicker Club on WeChat, their website, and on Instagram. Kicker Club. That's KICKERCLUB. Go check them out. They are the best source for skate-related news coming out of China. Also, before we get started with this episode, I want to let everyone know that I made a website for my podcast. It's observingtheprocess.com. Before I was using shanghaiobserve.com, but now I've switched over. I'm super excited about it. People have been asking me how they can support the show, so I'm starting to create subscriber-only content, like Ask Me Anything episodes, live streams, and much more. It's only $5.99 a month or $50 for the year. When you buy a subscription, you are helping keep this show alive. Please subscribe. Today on the show, I had Patrick O'Dell. Patrick is a documentary filmmaker based in Los Angeles. He focuses primarily on skateboarding and is best known for his series with Vice called Epicl'y Laterd, where he profiles individuals within the skate world. To be honest, when I first started this podcast, I thought it would mostly be focused on my friends in Shanghai. It was an honor to have Patrick on the show, and I can't wait to see where else this podcast takes me. If you enjoy these episodes, it helps out so much if you share it with your friends and family. Also, if you could rate and review it, that would be awesome. Without further ado, please give it up for Patrick O'Dell.
In the land of China, people hardly got nothing at all.
No possessions?
And in China, they never go to church.
No religion too?
Or do magic.
Well, it's easy if you try, Dick.
3, 2, 1. Okay, we're live. Patrick, how are you doing? Thanks for coming over.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So recently I just got a chance to watch your documentary, Dumb, the story of Big Brother magazine. You started off with a quote at the beginning of the documentary. It is, "Journalism is printing what someone else does not want printed. Everything else is public relations." This is by George Orwell. And I think it speaks a lot to what you do with Epicl'y Laterd and also this documentary and just kind of the vibe of what Big Brother was. So maybe you can give my audience a little bit of an introduction about what Big Brother the magazine was, your role in directing it, and yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Big Brother, when it came out, I was a big fan and I read every issue.
Right.
And there's a lot in it that ages well and a lot in it that like ages poorly.
Yeah.
But I think they set out each issue to push buttons or to be shocking,
Sure.
to write something or have stories or just put anything in there that they, not only that they wanted to, but they were intending to offend and also excite. I don't know. The quote is very interesting, but I don't know if I actually, I don't know. I don't know if everything's always as cut and dry as that. But they would put things in there like how to kill yourself.
Yeah.
How to get a fake ID. Different things about drugs and drinking and sex. And a ton of it it's almost fascinating that they didn't get in as much trouble, but I guess, those magazines were, some of them were probably a circulation of like 1,000 or 2. Some of the very early ones.
Oh, really? Not that many were put out?
Probably not. And just sent to skate shops. And no kids showed their parents.
Sure, of course.
And I don't know whether it was necessarily journalism that they were doing. Maybe a little bit. But I think they were just having fun.
Right. Well, what I liked about, because Big Brother is before my time. I was born in 92. So, I started skating very early, but Big Brother way before my time. But what I liked about it is it seems like it evolved from zine culture, which was cool because, zines was just very individualistic. And then Big Brother took that angle. The deeper story is that Rocco, he started it and he was the owner of World Industries skateboards. And basically he wanted to put his own ads in other skate mags, but they were like, nah, this is not going to fly. Spike Jonze actually said something super interesting, was that like he didn't realize how conservative the skateboard industry was until, this was kind of going on. But anyways, so it started from, guys just kind of wanting to do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how old you were when you first saw Big Brother, or?
I would have been, I'm not sure exactly. I'm going to guesstimate 16, 15 or 16.
Okay. So you're not like super young. It's crazy. Like Ryan Sheckler, for example, like he was interviewed for one and he was like 8 years old when those were coming out.
So I have a copy of issue 1 that I own and that I got at the time. And I have most of the early issues. There's a couple that I don't have. And it was hard to find them. I remember hunting them down. And there was one I didn't get, like issue 4 or issue 5 or something.
That's interesting.
Because I couldn't find it because it was kind of hard to get them. And I would turn up at the skate shop and, find the magazine. And the first one's pretty bad. It looks like it's zine size. And it's kind of ridiculous, but it was issue 2 where Jeff Tremaine took over. There was a different editor for issue 1.
Okay.
And Jeff Tremaine, and I look back and they don't I think they were big fans of like Howard Stern.
Pushing the envelope, that kind of stuff.
Right. And so they listened to a lot of like shock radio and they kind of wanted to, I think that was an influence of theirs, as well as zine culture, because they hired Earl Parker to be sort of a editor at large. And he was a guy who made zines somewhere in the Midwest and they were really irreverent and, with articles like one was how to have an effective satanic ritual and, a bunch of goofy stuff. So they hired Earl Parker to be also one of their editors. So it was like Jeff, Earl Parker, Mark McKee, Sean Cliver. And then the office was attached to a skate park. So they would document the skaters and talk about their personal lives and kind of what the scene was like, as well as trying to make, and it extended into their board graphics and everything, but they were great writers, especially Sean Cliver and Mark McKee, really good writing. I mean, it really holds up. Jeff Tremaine's not really much of a writer, I don't know. That wasn't his focus.
That's what he said even during the documentary at one point.
And Earl Parker, I think, kind of fizzled out. I think he was supposed to be this great writer, but I really think it was Sean and Mark McKee. I mean, to me, they were like novelists or something. I could have, and it was the only magazine where I would go cover to cover, reading them. Like as a fan, I read them cover to cover. I mean, I don't know how often I read a Thrasher or a Transworld cover to cover, but Transworld had better photography.
Well, that was a whole problem with Big Brother, actually, that I guess you went into during the documentary, was like they just didn't have good photography coverage. They didn't even have the foresight, or I could be speaking out of line, but they didn't have the foresight to necessarily think like we need to have such good. At one point, they show like we just hired cartoonists to even fill in what's going on when we didn't have coverage, which was kind of a cool angle to do. I liked that.
Yeah, I think their interest was storytelling. Being shocking, but also telling stories.
Yeah.
And so when I would read it, coming from Ohio in a bedroom in like some sort of somewhat suburban rural area. And it was like the writing was like giving you a seat in the van on tour. So it was an adventure. It was an adventure story.
Right. Oh, you did. You said this at one point in an interview I read with Jenkum, I believe. It's that was the first time I fell in love with the adventure of skateboarding. So that's interesting to think that was probably one of the things that really sparked your future career, in a sense. You might have not really, at 16, I guess what are you getting into at that point? Like you're into photography, you're obviously into skating. Do you have future goals? Like how did you did you always think you were going to be a documentary filmmaker?
No, I thought I was going to be either a pro skateboarder or a photographer, skate photographer.
Right.
And I most enjoyed, when I think of Trans World, looking at Spike Jonze photos.
Mm.
And yeah, and that predates Big Brother, because obviously Spike kind of went over to Big Brother. But when he was a Trans World, I used to look at skate magazines, and you look at the picture and you always kind of wonder about the skaters, and you wonder about the people in the background, even of the skate photos, or what it must be like late at night in New York. And so Trans World just had the pictures, and they had the pro spotlights, which I read every issue had a pro spotlight on a different pro. And I always read those. Those I definitely always read. But I would say, I was like a teenager. I don't know what my goals were, but it was skating and taking pictures.
Right. So you're from St. Louis, is that right?
St. Louis. I was born in St. Louis.
Okay.
And I moved around a lot. And I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. And then I lived in Hong Kong for 2 years.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that at one point, because I saw on your Instagram you have like that old photo ID.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. And then I also came across some old clips of you skating in Hong Kong.
Yep.
You skated, I guess it was, is it Causeway Bay? I think it's Causeway Bay, and it's the Raceway track.
Yeah.
The super famous spot in Hong Kong.
That was actually being built when I lived there. I remember seeing it and thinking that would be a great skate spot, but I didn't. And then it wasn't until years later I saw it in magazines and saw people skating it. But that clip was, I actually went back there.
Well, it's old footage. It looks like 90s, right? Or
it's old, but it's not when I lived there. I lived there in 1990, 91.
Wow.
And that footage is more 98.
Okay.
Which I guess is still the 90s, but it's later.
But it's not when you lived there.
It's not when I lived there. When I lived there, and it was really when I learned how to ollie up a curb in Hong Kong.
So how old were you in 1990, roughly, give or take?
13, 14.
Is that when you, because I read you started skating because of maybe Back to the Future, like
Right. And that was going down hills, and I wasn't doing any tricks. I remember when I moved to Hong Kong, there's kids that skated. I remember going up to them like, I skate. And one of them said, "Can you ollie?" And I said, "What's that?" And then they would call me a poser. Right. So I was like, I skate, but I didn't know how to ollie. So in Hong Kong, I had to learn how to ollie up curbs. I would ollie downstairs. There were ramps everywhere, and I would learn the basics of like mini ramp skating. Right. All in Hong Kong.
Yeah. For people who don't know, Hong Kong is super hilly and probably a pretty cool place. And also a big expat community. I'm guessing you moved there with your family. Maybe family had work to do out there. What did you think of growing up or spending a couple years in Hong Kong?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I almost didn't want to admit it because I was so sad we had to move to Hong Kong. We lived in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Right.
And it just sounded horrible, like the worst thing that could ever happen to have to move there. But then pretty quickly I liked it because in Cincinnati, we lived near some cornfields, and suddenly in Hong Kong, you can get anywhere, do anything, complete independence.
It's a polar opposite, man. Like I've never been to really Ohio or, that type of area, but must have been a really big change.
Yeah. I mean, there's some cities in Ohio, but like Cincinnati and Cleveland and Columbus, which were smaller, but I didn't live exactly in the cities. And, but Hong Kong, I would go out of our apartment and just have the whole city to go skate.
Yeah.
Or just to screw around, like do anything at late at night, whatever I wanted. Yeah. And then, so I loved living in Hong Kong. I missed the American food. You couldn't really get pizza. You couldn't get Mexican food.
None of that. Dude, the first McDonald's opened up in like the early 90s. It was like very fresh back then.
So I had trouble getting some of the food I liked, but then I discovered new food that I liked.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went to a school, Hong Kong International School, which is mostly like an American school grades. But But I had some friends that went to the British school, and I had some friends, whether they were Chinese or Korean, that went to different schools. And I went out and skated every day
Yeah.
and street skated at all these spots. I knew where the spots were, where everyone was meeting up, and skated all the time, could do anything. And then after 2 years, I was so disappointed I was so sad to move to Hong Kong. But then after 2 years, we moved back to Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
We moved to Columbus. And I thought, like, this sucks. Like, I don't like.
Yeah, man. You already experienced some golden stuff in Hong Kong.
Yeah. And the house we lived in Columbus, there wasn't even a store walking distance from my house. There wasn't anything. I mean, I could probably walk to like maybe a gas station, but there's nothing. And I didn't have a car.
Right.
So suddenly I went from a place where I had all this freedom to roam a city to just Columbus, Ohio. And I was really also offended by Columbus, the school I went to, culturally. I remember it was early on, someone said something really racist. Yeah. And I couldn't believe what they were saying, because I was just used to something different. Mm-hmm. And it was really a Republican area. It was really all white high school that I went to. And man, I hated it.
I mean, like for me, I really think I grew into myself a lot more when I had my first experience traveling abroad. Like even studying abroad in Australia, it's just meeting international people from all over. Mm-hmm. And for you to experience that at such a young age, being able to go to Hong Kong and have these, like especially formative years of your life, really being able to experience a whole new city. And I mean, I just think it's amazing that you were able to do that. And a lot of people benefit from stuff like that. Is there any other stories you remember from Hong Kong? I'm just curious, like in the 90s especially, such a different time, I think, than even it is now.
Yeah. I remember I found out that Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, she went to the same school as me.
Wow.
But I didn't know her then. She went there before then. But,
that's funny.
But yeah, there's a great skate scene.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to ask.
And the skate scene was people from every different culture. So I skated with a couple Americans. One of my best friends was Korean. And then another best friend was from Taiwan. And there were some British. I was good friends with a kid who went to a British school. So my like skate crew was a couple people from my school and a couple people from different schools. Mm-hmm. And people that spoke different languages. Like sometimes there'd be like an Australian or something. And yeah, it was a pretty eclectic skate crew.
What was there a skate shop out there at that time?
Yeah, it was called Bicycle World.
Bicycle World.
And so that's where I went and got my first real board, because I had some generic board, and I went to Bicycle World and I got a vision board. And they mostly sold bicycles, but they had some decks. Yeah. And I can't remember the neighborhood, but maybe it was Causeway Bay.
Okay.
It was. I can't remember. I'm blanking on the neighborhood, but it was a tiny store. And I remember I bought my first pair of skate shoes, and they only had a certain size, and I bought them the wrong size. I think they were Vans Skate Highs, but they were too big.
Okay.
But I wanted them so bad that I accepted that they were too big, but they looked stupid. And then I bought the Airwalks, the ones that looked like they had the pterodactyl on the side.
Okay.
But it was actually an A. The like Vans Skate Highs, Airwalks, boards. And I've met these guys that have a skate shop out there now. I'm blanking on the name right now, but they're always like
852 or Kit.
Yeah, that's a number.
852.
And they're like, I always mention Bicycle World. I must have met them back then too, but I can't really remember.
Yeah.
But they knew Bicycle World.
So sick.
But it wasn't even owned by a skater, it's just like
some guy probably like able to import boards or something. Right. Yeah.
And they always had a couple decks.
So cool.
And the skate magazine I read was called Rad, which was the British skate magazine.
Yeah, that's literally the next question I was going to ask, like influence at times. So you have magazines and then any videos like you're able to get your hands on?
Yeah, the first video I got was Rubbish Heap, which was World Industry, Spike Jonze's first video, as well as Ban This. I think I got them both at the same time from Bicycle World.
Wow, that's pretty cool that they were able to hold that type of content, because it's somewhat specific or...
Yeah, because it was the first Christmas I got there. I think my mom picked them up. It was my first Christmas in Hong Kong. And then the Rad magazine was just at the newsstand. That's a magazine from England.
Mm.
And I would check those out. But then I think at some point I got a subscription and they sent them out. And so I had a subscription, probably both Thrasher and Transworld. Definitely Transworld, because I remember the first issue I had a Tom Groholski Pro Spotlight. And I remember reading all the Pro Spotlights. And I think I hate to say it, I think I preferred Transworld at that time to Thrasher. Maybe I wasn't ready for it. It was a little more kid-friendly. But so I read Transworld for the photography.
Right. I mean, for me, it's funny. Like I think I did like 1 year of Transworld I didn't have Thrash. I didn't even know. And this was back in like 2006 when I really got into, skate media. But before that, when I started skating at the age of like 6, in New York City, just got a hand-me-down skateboard. Like someone just gave it to me. And for me, my history of learning about skateboarding is strictly just through myself, which I find kind of interesting because a lot of the stuff that the Big Brother, the whole concept of the magazine is, this is like a big brother that's going to teach you cool shit. And for me, the way that skateboarding found me and I found skateboarding is purely through myself. For example, like I would go to Woodward as a kid and I didn't watch videos. I didn't really even make friends. All I did is skate a mini ramp every single day. Like that's all I cared about was actually skating. And it wasn't until, later middle school, early high school that I got into media about skateboarding, the lifestyle of skateboarding, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I find that's one of the great things about skateboarding and what attracted me to it was I choke when I'm playing baseball and the whole team needs me to hit a double and I can't, I strike out. I just can't deal with it. It's even playing pool or something, like if people are watching me, I can't really do it. Well, and skating, big group of people, I'm not interested in trying to show off. But I love skateboarding by myself or with one or two friends. And when I was a kid, I felt like team sports, I just had trouble with them. I also had trouble like sometimes getting along with other people.
Sure.
And so skateboarding was perfect for my personality. And one of the things I really appreciate about skateboarding now is we all, or at least me working in sort of the skate industry, there's an industry. So like if you're a baseball fan or football fan, the industry is the whole thing. The MLB is what baseball is. I mean, there's some softball, there's some little league, whatever. But like, if you're a fan of the team, that's kind of all there is. With skateboarding, you can completely remove pro skateboarding from your perception of skateboarding and still have like a valid skateboard experience. And people sometimes talk about like the Olympics is going to ruin skateboarding. But when I go skate, I'm not really thinking that much about what an Olympic skater's doing or what pro skateboarders are doing. Cause I can't skate on a pro level. So sometimes when I skate, I just picture people that I looked up to like Matt Hensley or Eric Dressen. And I just shop around at sort of my own skill level. And also, I'm just thinking about my friends. I'm not really bogged down with like skate industry. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And I think that's one of the special things about skateboarding. Well, like I said, when my friends called me a poser because I couldn't ollie up a curb, if I said I'm a Los Angeles Dodgers fan or a St. Louis Cardinals fan, nobody's gonna go, oh, but can you hit a home run? It's like no one's. But skateboarding, it's sort of a little bit cannibalistic about skateboarding that. Sometimes we judge people that are interested in it,
dude,
but that 100%. It's still that it's participatory. It's like skateboarding is something you do. It doesn't necessarily have to be something you watch.
Totally. And this brings me to something I can quote you from some interview, Jenkem, I believe. There have been times that I have had to change my interests or pretend like I like different music or whatever, just for the benefit of trying to be sort of mainstream skateboard person. So, I mean, like recently I've been even just from watching Big Brother in a sense, or the documentary you made and hearing what Spike Jonze said about like, it can be a conservative environment. I mean, I love skateboarding for so many reasons, but I also came to realize, the culture, even when I was at Woodward, where I developed like meeting people from all over the country who skate. and coming to realize back, like retrospectively looking back, that I had to fit some type of mold. It makes me a little bit upset about that. But today I think it might have changed. I'm wondering if maybe you could speak a little bit to that quote that I just talked about and having to fit into the mold with skateboarding. And I think Big Brother, the whole documentary really shines some light on this topic.
Yeah, Big Brother was pretty open. Big Brother, I do not think is an example of like closed-mindedness in skateboarding or conservativeness in skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I was in high school, skateboarding was small and it was very like you had to like people look at the 90s as this great time in skating because we had our own dress, our own style.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that. But it was also, like you said, like really homophobic.
Mm-hmm.
Girls weren't doing it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had an interesting experience. I went to Woodward recently because I lived in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
And some guy was talking to me about the Antoine Dixon episode that I'd made.
Yeah.
And he was working there. Just some guy. And I asked him about skating. And he's like, oh, I don't skate. I'm a gymnast.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was interesting that I couldn't tell the difference anymore between a skater
That's
and
good news to me.
a skater and a gymnast.
Yeah.
That they were somewhat interchangeable.
Yeah.
Because they are similar.
Uh-huh.
They're similar sports.
Right. Individualistic, very much competing against yourself.
But back in the 90s, a skater and a gymnast couldn't be more different.
Right.
But now I think, and so I think skateboarding, it's weird when I read some media or something, sometimes skaters want to give themselves too big of a pat on the back for their like open-mindedness. And part of me is like, this is new.
Yeah, totally.
90s skateboarding was not open-minded. And being on a tour, like I remember being in the tour van, if I tried to jam some music that didn't fit what skaters listened to, it was difficult.
Get pegged down.
Yeah.
Put in your place in a sense.
And actually, this is weird. I don't know if I've told this story, but I remember, so I went to art school in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I remember there was somebody in my class that was like transgender or something. I don't know the exact, I don't know exactly what this person
what their specific situation
right,
was. Yeah.
But they were then in a band. Then I saw Chris Johansson, and Chris Johansson is someone I looked up to, and he does art for Anti-Hero. And now he's like a really well-known artist, but I kind of knew him as like an anti-hero sort of artist.
Okay.
And he was in a band with that person. And I remember almost having this thing like, oh, wow, like you can be in skateboarding and not be some weird homophobe, because I think at the time it felt that way.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's cool. Chris Johansson can sort of run both worlds. Because I remember even in art school, I had my skate friends and then I had my art school friends.
Okay.
And sometimes those were like different groups of people. And not that you necessarily always have some mercurial personality where but you do that a little bit. You go like, I'm hanging out with my art friends. I'm going to go hang out with my skate friends.
Yeah.
And the conversations are different and the things are different. And sometimes I even learned though that I had a conservative I got like attitude about certain things. And we all grow as people.
Yeah.
But skateboarding is a lot different than it is now.
Yeah.
Skateboarding was a lot different then than it is now.
Sure. I have recently been thinking just about the term lifestyle. And like for some reason in my head, my whole life, it was just like an industry term. It was related to just like, industry, career, like within branding, marketing. And now I'm looking at the word as like, because when you think of lifestyle, you think of putting people in like, oh, that's like a skater lifestyle or a surfer lifestyle. And I think for most of my life, I put myself in just a skater lifestyle and I couldn't interact with other people in other ways. Like I had to be a skater, but I also went through what you went through in terms of like not having split personalities, but the conversation would change based on who you're around. Like I experienced that growing up, for sure. And so what I'm getting at is, I'm happy that I'm thinking about the word lifestyle differently, is because like you can make your own lifestyle. You don't have to be boxed in with just like the check boxes of being a skater with a little bit of a surfer and, you know, somewhat of a photographer. Like I have fun like doing these podcasts with people I have not much in common about, because I get to find out so much more about the rest of the world and different ways to live life. And so I guess a question that I wanted to have for you is, what are some things that you surround yourself, like some crowds that you surround yourself with that aren't really skateboarders?
Well, this is stepping back a little bit, but I remember when I was shooting skate photos and starting out, there were skaters that I didn't relate to. And then I remember when I first met Andrew Reynolds, and I was like, oh, you like David Bowie and you like the Ramones? Like, that is awesome. That's what I like.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry Sue being like, oh, you like photographer and you like I remember we were on a trip and he opened my CDs and I had like Smiths and Morrissey.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, I love Smiths and Morrissey. And we were listening to it and Spanky and I remember it being so freeing, like finding a friend group of people that skated
Mm-hmm.
and I could work with or shoot pictures with, but I don't know, not necessarily open-minded, but just I felt like we were on the same wavelength.
Well, what I see that you're saying is like the first layer of connection is skateboarding, and then like it's easy to meet kind of people through that. But then once you by chance break through to another layer of like a common interest in music, that's like a little more niche in a sense. Like that's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, I finally met someone that I can connect with on somewhat of a deeper level. It's a very freeing experience. I know what you're talking about. Just like connecting with someone like that.
Right. And so now I have skaters that I have, all these other different interests in. I have a couple people that skate and we just text about baseball all the time. And we're on like a group text.
Yeah.
They're all skaters and it's just like our baseball group text.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because we don't talk skate in the texts.
Yeah.
We just talk baseball. Or I have other people, I don't know, like, oh, well, I have a friend, Heath Kirchart, who's a pro skater.
I love that Epicl'y Laterd, by the way.
And now because of meeting with him, he always wants to go on adventures.
Dude.
And our other friend,
so cool.
our other friend Kai and a couple other people, we're always texting like, hey, what do you think about this motorcycle trip or going on this hike?
Mm-hmm.
Or mostly hiking, like backpacking trips and canoeing and stuff.
Right. You were telling me about the observatory just before, hiking, like that kind of stuff.
The reason I was thinking about the observatory is because we're planning another like hiking trip.
Oh, cool.
You know, we're like hiking, camping, whatever. And so it's like our background skating. But even when I went on this 1.5-month trip with Heath and this guy named Kai, who's a photographer. And yeah, we sit around the campfire and we all skate. We didn't even bring our boards.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about skating like a little bit. But yeah, skateboarding is just kind of how we met. And then, you get older and you just talk about life stuff. Sometimes skating. Oh, we would listen to the like different skate podcasts and stuff. And it was kind of funny. We would listen to a little bit of skating, talk skating. But yeah, it's just.
Are there many other podcasts you listen to that are skate related? Like the only one that I really know of is the 9 Club. And then, there was one you were posting. I did a deep dive through your Instagram, just so you know. And there was one with like even Earl Sweatshirt, and it looked like some other, I don't know.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was K-Chung, which wasn't really podcasting. It was sort of podcasting. It was like a radio station. That was actually at a FM radio.
Wow. They were broadcasting?
Yeah.
That's sick.
It was FM radio, but it was like pirate. But then they would archive the shows digitally, and so you could download them. And that was fun. I don't do it anymore. The podcast, though, I only really listen to them when it's somebody I know.
Okay.
I hate to say it. So when it's
fair enough.
When if Spanky's on there or Heath's on there or Reynolds is on there or Eric Dressen or somebody, I'm gonna click on it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when it's people I don't know, I just forget to listen.
Dude, yeah, it's just all preference, man. It's about finding like what you're interested in listening to, and yeah.
I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but they're of different.
What kind of other stuff do you like to listen to?
I listen to political ones.
That's fun. It's almost like global drama in a sense. It's fun to listen to.
Yeah, political podcasts and also like like television shows I like. Sometimes they'll be like podcast breakdowns. Like,
That's
like
something-
this week we're going to break down The Mandalorian and I'll listen to it, or Game of Thrones or something.
What I think is so cool about podcasting right now, for example, like I'm a big fan of The Office, the TV show, and what two of the characters, Pam and Angela, were able to do is start their own podcast. And so they were, 9 seasons, 150 something plus episodes, maybe 300 episodes. I don't know. And what they're doing is they do a new podcast, and every podcast is just a reflection of each episode. And it's just a way to recreate content and totally just relive a moment. And I don't know, I think it's such a natural, cool thing. I really like, because for me, like a big part of my life is social media and Instagram. And I've been just getting kind of fed up with it, not really enjoying the experience much anymore. And podcasting is another form of social media where I put something out and I will really, really just love someone for like being able to compliment me or like enjoying what I post. But if I get a like on an Instagram post these days, it's not the same. Like totally way more value podcast feedback rather than Instagram feedback. I guess we could kind of talk about social media. When was your first experience with social media?
Friendster.
That's before my time. I've heard of that. Mine was MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was for you.
Yeah, Friendster and then MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
I had to try to figure out how to delete my accounts on there. I remember my email for one of them was Patrick@Thrasher Magazine, but then I didn't have that email anymore. And I had to like try to figure out my password, and I couldn't use the email address anymore. And
strange. Yeah.
I think I got them deleted. And then I did a blog, and my blog was social media before. I guess my blog was around when Friendster was around, but it was way before Instagram.
Okay.
Or Tumblr or something. So yeah, my first experiences with doing social media was doing my own blog.
Okay. So you know what? Like for Epicl'y Laterd, I feel like either someone or you said it was like a little bit before its time in a sense. And what I kind of started thinking about, it's not like vlogging, but it's a unique experience, like a mini doc about going around and kind of like capturing like a day in the life. Like I think that's how the first episode was with who was it? Dustin Dolan. Yeah. I think the original concept was just a day in the life.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could take a moment to let my audience know what Epicl'y Laterd is, because I think it's an amazing body of work that you've done for the past 15 years. So give my audience a little bit of a background, what Epicl'y Laterd is. And yeah.
So brief cliff notes is I worked for Thrasher Magazine, and then I ended up working for Vice as a photo editor. And then I did my blog. Epicl'y Laterd is what I named it, which was a dumb name, but I'm sitting there in front of the Yahoo domain registry, and I had tried a couple other names that were taken. So then I came out with that one, and I was like, all right, I'll take it. And I started a photo blog. So every day I would post a story, which was nice because when I was in art school, you'd shoot a lot of photos and you print them, and then they sit in a box. Right. Not that many people get to see them. I thought, and I had seen a few other blogs, which the word wasn't around them, but I was like, oh, this is a nice way to tell stories. It's, it's narrative. It's like, and I always tried to be, I left my house. These are a bunch of pictures. And then I went to sleep. They were always like a night. Sometimes they'd be a week, but usually be like a day or a night of pictures. And the site got really popular because I could see no one could see the views, but they were shocking. Like
really?
In the millions.
What?
Like
for a blog?
No, when you add it up, when you add them all up. So maybe someone would go to the homepage and then the page. But
but dude, those are all interactions. That's like real information. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would look, and I remember at one point, it was like 100,000, then it was a million. I don't know what it is now. I don't. The site's dead. I still pay the bill, and it still sits there.
Yeah, I've been on it. Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of insane.
Wow.
And so what happened was when I was working at Vice, this guy Jesse Pearson, who I'm still friends with, he was the managing editor, and they were going to launch a content channel. Like it was called VBS TV.
Okay.
It was meant to be like a online channel,
Mm-hmm.
sort of. It's really just whatever website. And they knew my background at Thrasher and thought you should do a show. And that was, we didn't know what it was. But yeah, it was like Dan Life's or
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like Skate TV or something.
Mm.
But then they thought you need a name for the show. And I was a little stumped. And then they were like, well, if you can't think of a name, it's gonna be Epicl'y Laterd.
Mm.
Because believe it or not, my blog was so popular that it was kind of like, it was like a known name.
That's cool, man.
So it was like they almost made me use the name because it was already a thing. Even though the website and the show were two totally different things.
Sure.
But and so yeah, the show started off as like day in lives, but over time, I don't know, it just evolved and changed, and I realized I could like talk skate history. I think I reached out to a brand, one of the brands like World Industries, and it's like, hey, can I use footage from this old video? And they were like, of course, sure.
Yeah.
And then I was like, really? I'm allowed to like use these old clips?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew at the time, this was a little before YouTube or very early YouTube. And I knew that people hadn't seen these videos that I grew up on, and so yeah, we started covering more skate history. And then I think from there, I got less interested in skate history and more interested in people's like personal history, people's stories. And
that's awesome.
And so it kind of evolved. It was like day in a life. Then it was like video history, like skate, like, and then I filmed this part, and then I filmed this part. And then even more like, and then I got into drinking and drugs, and then this happened. Like, and I really was fascinated with the characters in skateboarding and, finding people. Usually I tried to find people I liked or that I was interested, curious about.
Sure.
And doing sort of like biographical stories. And they grew, they kept getting bigger and bigger and longer, and sometimes we'd revisit people.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like, cause the first one was, I don't know how many minutes long, but like 1 or 2 episodes. And then, further down in the line, they become like 4-part series and kind of like almost full length docs.
Yeah, the Cardiel episode, I think, and they've trimmed it down. And it's funny because I recently found a DVD with the full original edit because it was something like an hour and 20 minutes. Or it was, I don't remember how many minutes, but it was
Long.
maybe not an hour, maybe, I don't know. It was
That
longer.
doesn't sound
and then they kept trimming it. So now the one online is maybe 45 minutes. I mean, I'm sure probably the trimming was actually helpful, but it's funny because I found the original. I was like, should I post this? It's like much longer, but yeah, we kept, and some of them some of them were actually ridiculously long. Like one of the episodes, I think is like pretty bloated. A couple of the episodes are like kind of bloated, but it was nice on the web because there was no length.
Yeah. No length restrictions when it comes to like doing web content. You just put it online and you don't have to deal with like a certain format, right?
Yeah. So for the television, we made 8 episodes for television a couple years ago. And they had to be exactly a television hour, which is
that's a lot harder to deal with. Yeah.
48 minutes or something.
Okay.
Well, it's tough because some of them you're condensing, and some of them you're stretching out, and the commercial breaks are down to the second.
Right.
So it needs to be each length, and then each break in the action is like, so some sort of segments could have been longer, but you need to cut to commercial. And then you come back and you need to start it. You need to keep your narratives making sense. And so some of the episodes, that was a problem. And some of them, yeah, maybe all of them, was a challenge.
I've never really thought about it like that. For even any TV show that goes on the air, they have to deal with these constraints about fitting, a certain puzzle in a sense. And that's interesting how, podcasting has changed radio, YouTube has changed TV, social media has changed, I guess, TV in a sense, being able to share without any constraints. That's something that a lot of podcasters talk about is like, why would you deal with a radio company like Sirius that, is going to restrict you for certain things, or deal with a cable company that is going to restrict you for certain things, when you can kind of start your own thing these days? And it's kind of cool that you found it through Vice, which is maybe a more, I don't know if liberal is the right word, but like freeing, like platform that's allowing you to do what you want in a sense, not gonna like Big Brother. Like it was so cool how they let the skate companies do whatever they want for the ads. Doesn't matter how gnarly it is. Like there was the gnarliest thing that happened, which was crazy. It was like the printing press didn't want them to post an ads that, like, I think some bearing company, with like a fake vagina and shit like that. So it was just pretty cool that, I don't even know where I was going on that. I got lost, but yeah.
But yeah, there's always format challenges.
Yeah, okay.
And there's always little things. I did this episode on Ali Boulala, which is one of my favorite ones. And the guy I worked with was like, we're going to drop all the parts at once because Netflix puts out all the parts at once.
Oh.
Like, so Netflix puts out Stranger Things,
yeah,
all the episodes. Whereas HBO and Disney Plus, they make you wait.
Mm-hmm.
And I preferred making it wait, maybe because I don't have that much work in me, that I'm like, oh, let's drop these parts up over time so that I get to feast a little longer.
Sure.
Or be relevant a little longer.
Yeah.
But there's always, at any company, there's always people. Early on, they said, oh, internet content can only be 3 minutes. Everything has to be 3 minutes. And so I had bosses saying, this needs to be 3 minutes because they figured out that was the optimal time.
Huh.
But I remember at the time, this was when I was watching Lost or something on iTunes back at the time. And I was like, I watch Lost every week and it's 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it on the internet because I didn't have cable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching an hour-long show, but a boss said, nope, 3 minutes. That's the target thing.
Right.
And then they hire somebody else and the new person says something different.
Mm.
And there's always debates about format, and it's never going to be settled. Like you watch companies chase each other on the perfect way to package something.
Do you think that's an issue with like having too many cooks in the kitchen, for example? Like a true, like when I think of the word artist, I think of an individual, like no one surrounding them, kind of like just doing whatever they want. And, I think of like someone like the Gons, like he's an artist of skateboarding in a sense. And then, you pretty much own your body of work Epicl'y Laterd, but I guess you've had to deal with producers and stuff like that. So what's your experience been? What do you think is the best way to go for the endeavor of documenting?
So it's tough because I do think art benefits from, I think, you make something, you do need advice. I think we've all watched like some bloated project where you think maybe the creator got a little like self-indulgent, and because but it depends on what the editor's motivation is. So on my show, I had an actual editor named Lauren, and she kept things tight for me because she wasn't a skater, and she would look at this and go, this is too long, or we need to keep this tight. And she did a good job of leaving people wanting more every time. And I've watched people's video projects where I've thought, this is too long. You're in love with it because you're the one who filmed it. And you're in love with each shot. And so I tend to not want to be there for editing. I mean, like I'm there for later stage editing, but sometimes I need another eye on it. Otherwise, I'm going to create this like bloated 7-hour thing. And we've all watched movies where you think like that scene could have been cut, or that this could be tightened up. And so I think we benefit from more eyes on a project if they're the right eyes. The problem is often it's money, or often it's or there's ego reasons, or there's, you know, maybe like impure reasons
Mm,
that someone might start chirping on
mm.
your content. You know what I mean?
Totally. I definitely wanted to shout out Lauren at one point because I read Lauren, is it Cinnamon?
Mhm.
Um, I read, she does like 75% of the editing. And then when it's almost done, you would go and watch and then tighten up, as you just said. And I relate to that because I am not much of an editor. I think there's so much magic that actually happens within editing that is just like, it takes one skill set to be out there in the field and, kind of, I mean, don't take this the wrong way. Like, I hope this is what I'm doing is like almost not getting in the way of the moment when you're documenting. That's what I want to do with podcasting. That's what I want to do with anything that I'm doing. Like my Instagram is called Shanghai Observed, and it's about purely observing and not being in the mix of what's going on, just kind of like capturing what's happening in that moment without me even having been there. So I think it sounded like the perfect fit when I read that you matched with someone that can edit your stuff the way that you want it to be shown. Yeah. And to tell you a little bit more about myself, I don't know if you know, like, my Instagram is called Shanghai Observed, and it started because I got a new phone and, it took really good pictures. I wanted to get more into street photography. So I saw Ed Templeton was doing this thing called Daily HB Peer Photo. I don't know. You might be familiar with that. And in Shanghai, I did, Daily Shanghai Photo. So for maybe, 5 weeks, 10 weeks, I was shooting a photo every single day, posting it, having a lot of fun with it. And then my Instagram account evolved into more of a submission page where people were sending content and stuff like that. Yeah. So I thought maybe now we could talk a little bit about, street photography or just photography in general. It sounds like a big part of your background, and maybe we could go back a little further to school. You went to school in San Francisco?
Yeah, I went to college in San Francisco.
Right. Yeah.
So in high school, I got into photography and I went to a half a day sort of different high school
Hmm.
where I'd go to my first high school in the morning and in the afternoon, I'd go to this school where we learned photography.
Okay.
And then I went to San Francisco Art Institute and studied photography and also sort of like fine art. And they had a division called, or a major called New Genres.
Hmm.
And I loved it. And which was video art and web-based art. And um, so yeah, studied in San Francisco. And I don't know. I think at some point I was like, I'm going to be a photographer. And it's funny how our perception of our careers change over time.
Hmm.
That for the longest time, or probably to this day, I would always say I was a photographer, even though I made most of my income doing video. Still, I think if I ever had to fill out my occupation, I'd write photographer.
Hmm.
And it's been interesting because there's been a lull in my video work, and I've been doing photography work. And lately, I've sort of gone back to being a photographer.
Hmm. In what regard? Like, what kind of work have you been doing?
Just a lot of, I've done a lot of personal projects,
Hmm.
um, documenting some of the adventures that I've done and things like that. And then a little bit of paid work,
Okay.
like help, like shooting lookbooks and
Mhm.
stuff like that, for like money.
Okay. So for college, you went to college in San Francisco. Um, was it like you knew what you wanted to do after college, or did you have a goal at the end, or was it kind of like you're living through the moment? Talk to me more about your college experience.
Yeah, there was probably a point, kind of like when I was in high school, where I pictured being a pro skater, where I pictured in college being like a gallery photographer, like I was gonna have shows all the time and be like that kind of photographer,
Okay.
fine art photography. I was even maybe a little like anti-fashion or I don't know. But I thought I might not even like nature photography, which now I kind of like, but Yeah, I probably pictured being a skate photographer and also like a gallery photographer or something.
Mm, okay. And after college, how long is it before you work at Thrasher?
Well, I'd contributed to a lot of skate magazines while I was in college, and then I moved to New York for a girlfriend, and I interned at a magazine called Index,
Okay.
which was like a multicultural magazine, like a little bit of fashion, a little bit of art,
Hmm.
kind of a little bit of music. And I was a fan of the magazine, and asked if I could intern for him. And
Hmm.
the guy I previously mentioned, Jesse Pearson, who thought of my show at Vice, he was the managing editor. That's where I became friends with him.
Hmm.
And Index was interesting because tons of people that were working for them, but young,
Hmm.
that I know, that I still know. And a lot of those people went over to Vice, but um, yeah, I didn't get paid. And I remember actually I had a couple contributions, uh, almost like uncredited, where, when you're the intern and they're like, hey, could you go to the library and find this kind of photo that fits this?
Hmm.
Little contributions here and there. And so I worked there, and I was also submitting photos to Thrasher, and then Thrasher eventually hired me on a retainer.
Hmm.
It was like $1,500 a month.
While you were in New York?
Yeah, they needed an East Coast photographer.
Oh, sick.
So I think when I was young, I thought I would live in San Francisco and I could work for Thrasher, but they don't need anyone in San Francisco.
So many people out there. Just,
Right.
They have everything they need.
And then I was in New York, and they used me because it was like East Coast person.
Hmm. Yeah. What was it? What was your experience like in New York? I mean, I guess now you live in LA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you like New York? Do you think you would ever move back? I don't know. I think it's very different, New York compared to LA, the lifestyle. I'm from New York. I grew up in the city and then moved out to Long Island. It's just a different lifestyle, I guess. Do you think that? Yeah.
I moved to New York when I was about 21
Mm,
or 22,
okay.
and I love drinking, and I love like partying and drugs and whatever. So
Mhm.
I really fell into like I love the nightlife,
Mm,
being up all night.
sure.
And I loved, roaming around the East Village, and it was exciting. And it's exciting because you go out and you never know what was going to happen. You never know who you're going to run into. It was just adventure all the time.
Mhm.
And by working for Thrasher, I had found a little bit of a way, like a sustenance. Like I get this one little check a month, and then whatever other photos I could shoot. So I had kind of a job that allowed for a lot of free time.
Mm,
And I loved that bars were open till 4.
right.
I remember when I moved there, I will never stay out till 4. That sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
I remember I would start drinking and I would sit there and someone would yell last call. And I think they were kidding. They'd be like, last call. And I'm like, really? In my head, I thought it was like midnight, and it was 3:45.
Wow.
And I mean, whatever. But I loved that at the time. But the thing is, you outgrow it. Or I don't know, I outgrew it.
Mm.
I remember when I was about 30, I remember I loved New York. So I did about 10 years in New York. And then I just didn't have the energy for it anymore.
Mm.
And your rent is so high, and the cost of living so high. And I just thought, well, I don't really go out anymore. That was kind of something. So when I meet somebody young, I've met young people, and they've said, I'm thinking about moving to New York. And I'm like, yeah, you should.
Mm.
But for me, now when I go to New York, I might visit, go out a little bit, but that was just a phase I was going through.
Mm. Totally. So I read one point, if you were ever to be burnt on skateboarding, it was towards the end of Thrasher magazine, when you were working there. I don't know exactly what the quote is, or like getting burnt on skating towards the end of Thrasher. And it was interesting to me because it reminded me of this blog I used to do called The Constant Change. And the concept was like, always got to change. Like if you are constantly changing, you're never going to get bored in a sense. So I just kind of resonated with what you said. And I think it's just so important to eventually change every now and then to get a new perspective on life and kind of evolve as a person in a sense. So do you think that was a changing point in your life tell me more about the timeline. I don't exactly know. So
I remember I read every Thrasher, every magazine cover to cover until I worked for Thrasher. And then I didn't really read them anymore.
Okay.
And I didn't read other magazines. I'd read some things, but it is interesting when you go from to transition from being a fan to suddenly it being your livelihood, how you're, you become less enamored with it. And I sometimes think about, I told you I like baseball. It's funny because when I was really a skate fan, I knew every skater that rode for every team down to like almost flow. You know, I could list every skater on Girl and Chocolate or a Stereo down to like a new guy they put on the team that week. An encyclopedia of skate knowledge.
Wow.
And now sometimes, I hate to say it, sometimes I'm in the skate shop and there's a name on the board, a pro skater, and I'm sitting there, who is that? I have never heard of that person. And it sucks because, you know, I should keep up on things. And generally when that happens, I'll like plug it in and start trying to catch up with something. But I was thinking about how the St. Louis Cardinals, the baseball team I like, I know every player sitting in the bullpen. Like the 25-man roster, I could name them. Same with the Dodgers, I could name every player on the team. And it's interesting. But I think because the baseball was free of sort of like noise, sometimes with skating, you start to know these people, and there's an expression like "don't meet your heroes." There's a lot of that. There's a lot of personal stuff or social stuff.
Well, I think you've talked about, either you or someone in some article I read, was like skateboarding can be very political. And I think you said you've tried your best to stay out of it. Like, you know, the marketing world is just, that is what makes a skater pro. It's completely different from baseball or any mainstream sports.
Right. In a mainstream sport, you get cut from the team if you're not contributing more than the next person in line. And they can just point to the stats and go, look, you're not contributing. Sorry. In skateboarding, you know, there isn't that. And it's tough on the skaters too, because they never know exactly when they're not pro anymore or how long they should hang on.
That must be terrible to like, it's just like such a terrible fade out.
It's tough. And I've interviewed so many ex-pro skaters, and man, that moment when a lot of these people can be really bitter about this moment that they got cut from a team. They can look at their entire career of doing great and interesting stuff, but that phone call where they got cut is still sort of a traumatic experience for them, and something that they're like bitter about and having trouble getting over. It's like getting dumped by your girlfriend or boyfriend or something.
Right.
And it's tough because there's a lot, they blame a lot of the people. I remember, okay, there's one, I don't want to blast this dude, but I'm just going to do it. This guy, Fabian Alomar, I was interviewing him.
Okay.
He was pro for Menace and pro for all these companies. And I remember he was telling me this story for my show about him. He was in Germany and he pulled a gun out. He had like a BB gun but some gun, and was shooting it. And then Rodney Mullen, who was the owner of the company, got arrested. They were like, who's in charge? And then someone said Rodney. And Rodney a SWAT team came and arrested him and took him away. And so he was telling me this whole story. And then the next interview, or next question, he's like, yeah, man. And then they went on tour without me. And I went on this tour. And I'm like, yeah, because you pulled a gun and got Rodney Mullen arrested. Of course, they're not going to bring you on tour.
Yeah.
And then he was talking about the checks getting smaller and how they got Paul Rodriguez on the team. And he was having trouble adding up that the cause and effect. And I've met that. There's been a lot of that I've noticed, that people are oblivious to their own cause and effect.
Wow.
Like someone will be like, yeah, I wasn't really skating. I'd skate like once every 6 months. And then I got cut and they cut my pay. I'm like, yeah, it's like,
I think that's interesting. And it speaks to skateboarding in a sense, like everyone can be so close-minded on their route to being a professional. Like you just focus on just being that picture that you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be amazing at skating. You're supposed to be a partier, a drunk, an animal in a sense. And then all of a sudden, the times change and it is a business at the end of the day for these brands. And then they get pushed out and they're like, what the hell happened?
and I've seen a lot of skaters get a lot of recognition from their skating. So, when you're young and I don't know, you're just skating, you learn all these tricks and you get good.
Mm.
And then you get pro, you put out a video part, you ride for cool companies, and suddenly you almost start to get like a girlfriend, and you start discovering like drugs and alcohol, or you just discover that you're cool.
Mm.
And people are like, hey, come to this show, come to this bar, come to this, like, let's hang out. And they put the skating aside a little bit to sort of celebrate the fruits of their career. Like, oh, I have money. I have these perks or these like rewards from my success. And then they forget to keep up on the thing that got them the success in the first place. And I've seen that a lot.
Oh, I think the epitome of that is Muska.
Yeah.
He is the epitome of that situation where he was the best skater like ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was before my time, but I've heard the story of like, there was one day he like did half a video part in one day or something like that. And then he becomes this guy who's eventually partying with Paris Hilton. And I can't remember the specifics of, it's funny, his Epicl'y Laterd, that's what I would like reference to his history, which is so cool.
So yeah, and he forgot to skate.
Yeah.
Or some of those guys, they'll skate, but they don't have the passion to excel or progress the sport.
Mm.
And I've seen it. I mean, almost always. It always happens. And some people and some people snap out of it. But I've done that in my career, where you start to get the kudos and the props and the rewards. You get money and you think like, I'm going to go on vacation, or I got this new girlfriend and we're just gonna. You forget to do when you're freelance working, you get your check and then you spend it and you forget to like work more. And in real sports, I sometimes picture how competitive skating is too. And I was watching this college basketball game and I was watching the college basketball players. And I was imagining like at the skate park because I remember picking up a bunch of like pros, and they were like, stop at this stop. I got to pick up some beer. And I got to pick up some cigarettes. I got to get some weed. And they're at the skate park drinking, smoking weed, smoking cigarettes. And I'm like trying to imagine like a college basketball team, if they were just sitting on the bench smoking cigarettes and drinking a Budweiser, how like bad that would look and how quickly the next player would take over.
Yeah. Just get thrown into line.
But meanwhile, I would see a pro, smoking cigarettes and stuff, and not realizing how quick they're going to get taken out by the next skater. The next skater is going to come up and be better than them. And they're like oblivious.
It's just interesting how that's not always the case though.
Mm-hmm.
There's people like Dustin Dolan who drinks I don't know him at all personally, but through video, like he drinks all the time. He's always drinking. And even when he's skating, he's drinking. And it's just kind of like, so when you see that type of person and like that's kind of maybe what sells, I don't know exactly, but it's for sure is an image to have and something that works within skateboarding. People see that and they're just like, I guess I could do that too because it looks amazing. I don't know.
But there's always a new squad of skaters that comes up and that everyone gets really interested in, and you don't realize that you stopped caring about the last crew. Because I've seen that, like these like skaters, like someone will come out with a video and everyone will be really excited about it, some new brand or some new skaters, and then the next one comes out and it's new and we're excited, and sometimes you're thinking about each new crew, and you might have forgotten a bunch of people, and you didn't even realize it because you forgot about them.
Do you think that happens more often now that we have social media and like just like a click community? Like
I've just seen that from the brand perspective because I've worked with a lot of brands, and someone will come out with a part or someone will be doing something and everyone will be like, you should put this person on. And then the next thing happens. It's like, oh, you should put this person on. And then it almost would, the companies I've talked to, like, you don't want to put everyone on because then you have to kick them off, or then you have 200 people. Like you have to find talent. But I've seen skaters be the like big hot thing, someone be the guy, and then just sort of like vanish. And I'd say usually it's like drugs, alcohol, cocaine, but I don't know.
Speaking of brands, I guess, shoe companies have been super, like a big driver. I think they pay the most out of it. When you're a pro, a shoe company will probably pay the most. Do you think bigger brands, this is a question from a friend, he doesn't want to be named for some reason. Do you think bigger brands like Nike, Adidas, they're good for the industry overall? Or do you think like local, like smaller brands are better to support?
It's tough because I don't actually know the insides. I'm not a industry analyst. I miss especially with shoes, I miss Emerica and Lakai, and what were some of the other ones? I don't know. S and Osiris and whatever, them dominating the industry. That was cool. That skaters ran their own shoe companies and had these big DC shoes and stuff, had these big teams.
Right.
And Vans.
Yeah, Vans has been almost an anomaly of the industry.
Yeah, Vans has always had skate teams.
The first skate shoe ever.
I mean, they were my first skate shoe.
That I know of, like 66 or something is when they came out.
But they're not the same company they were. But I mean, I should.
I'm. But they're a good company.
No,
I like them.
No, this is the thing. I love Vans. I fucking love Vans, and that's all I wear. But
he's wearing Vans right now, ladies and gentlemen.
But what I'm saying is, I missed when it was a bunch of small companies. So I don't know. It's good for the skaters that skate for those companies, and all those companies make exciting shoes. I remember there was a time when I worked for Soltec, and Sean Malto left Soltec and went to Nike.
Yeah.
And I was sad about it kind of. I was like, oh, that sucks. But then he posted an Instagram of him holding some like beautiful shoes. And I kind of got jealous. I was like, oh, those are those are some pretty shoes. I forget what they were, but I was like, wow, those look good. I wish I could wear those. And, and every time I get a box of Vans, I'm like really stoked. Like these are great shoes. But it sucks because Emerica always put out such amazing videos, and we're always like the cutting edge of sort of the marketing. They have a rad team and they have rad ads, and they exclusively advertise in like skate mags, and they support that industry. And I mean, because some of the big companies wouldn't put out all the video content if they didn't have to. And I feel like all the small companies coming out with videos and parts and really celebrating the culture and preserving the culture. Because I think people don't understand how much these people at these companies celebrating skate culture is so important to them. And often a big company, that's not important to them.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's necessarily the shoe companies, because another thing I've noticed a lot and in some of the work I do is the energy drinks.
Oh,
And
wow.
everyone's
Yeah.
got a Red Bull or Monster or Rockstar or some sort of energy drink check. And uh yeah, those companies probably don't care about the culture at all.
Mm-mm. Well, a little bit, but
Yeah, maybe they
not as
do.
much though. Well, I just think it's more money driven for them
Yeah.
because they got in when it's like a hot item. They weren't in it from the beginning like these other brands. Just different.
It's just different. I think just skating's changed,
Mm.
and it's and there's no shortage of like interesting content. And I sort of celebrate all the brands, maybe not the energy drink ones as much, but
Fair enough.
the I kind of like all the shoe companies. I don't know,
Okay.
but I like America. And sometimes when I hear like certain companies not doing good, it really sucks and makes me sad. And sometimes even the new skate brands, there's so many new skate brands and everyone gets excited about each new skate brand. But sometimes I'm like, you guys don't forget about Girl. Don't forget about
Mhm.
Deluxe.
Mhm.
Even like Paul Peralta and the Santa Cruz. And these companies have spent decades doing demos,
Yeah.
going out on the road and putting out content and making videos, doing the photography, running ads. And and I like the new companies and the culture of the new companies. But part of me is like, what did girl skateboards ever do wrong?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, in my opinion. And I like the legacy brands.
Mm. Okay. So my next question is going to be taking a bit more of a deep dive into Epicl'y Laterd, some of your favorite episodes, different styles. But before that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. I hope you're enjoying the show. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Kicker Club. Kicker Club is the #1 source for skate content coming out of China. They are super involved with the community and have been around for a very long time, since 2001. I've actually done an episode with the founder of Kicker Club. His name is Guan Mu. You can go check out that episode and be sure to follow their Instagram, Kicker Club. That's KICKERCLUB. All right, back to the show. Okay, we're back, huh? We're back observing another process. Back with Patrick O'Dell, and we are talking about Epicl'y Laterd.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to go through maybe some of your favorite episodes. For me, I see some different styles of the show. One might be a skater where like they're on the coming up into the height of their career, or they're in the height of their career. Some of the episodes are more of post career. That's for sure something that we even talked about before. I guess what do you think your favorite style of show has been to shoot?
Well, my favorite are the ones that I don't think the skater got enough due. And I was helping them tell their story. And I felt like Alyssa Steamer, Eric Dressen. When I made Eric Dressen's, I would tell people I was working on it. And some people were like, really, Eric Dressen? And they didn't realize how amazing and long of a career he had. And so sometimes when I felt like I think with Alyssa and Eric Dressen, I felt like I was doing a service to skateboarding. Like, this person's more important than I felt like they got credit for. So those were two of my favorites. Ali Boulala's was one of my favorites because, it was a tragic story. His story is so tragic, but I felt like I cared so much for Ali and knew him and knew sort of how much remorse he felt and how like punished he was. And rightfully so. He basically killed somebody, but I felt like there was an opportunity to help him tell his story. And so I got some sort of personal fulfillment from those stories.
His story was, almost like a movie or like a folklore, you could tell someone, of like a horrendous mistake that was made and the punishment that he lives through today. Like it was tremendously sad to see at the end of that episode where he could like barely skate anymore, when he was like going for the, what was that, 20 something stare. He used to be phenomenal. Just so that was just an amazing episode for those reasons. Just to see that, like how does, you can't write that almost. It's like it just you were able to document it. Something that you said at one point is like, I watch 30 for 30 episodes about players in sports I don't even care about. I love that, because that's the way I actually approach podcasting. Is I love to have people on that might not have anything interesting to say, but if you're the right interviewer, you're going to pull out an amazing story that the world should hear. How do you feel about that when you interview or do documenting of any type?
Yeah. I mean, I generally try to outline the story ahead of time so I know what I'm getting into.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking about how if I don't like the person, there's been a few episodes where I kind of didn't like the person and it sucked being in their head for 3 months.
Hmm.
And then when you like the person, when you feel like you're going to bat for them, it's a good feeling.
Hmm.
It's a head you want to be in. And so when I rank the episodes, it's a little bit in who's a good person, who's like John Cardiel was a big episode for me. And that was somebody who I liked and felt that was inspiring and felt it was good for people to emulate.
Hmm.
And I myself would want to emulate that person. And so it was a good feeling making them.
Hmm.
And so I always try to look for people that I like and enjoy.
So my friend Ryan, he wants to know what you have seen or think about skateboard pros after they're famous, when their careers are over, but they are still young and don't have skills or job experience. How do they adapt? Your videos tend to be bigger stories, broader scopes of skaters' careers.
Yeah, it's tough because I've seen some people have rough times after their careers,
Mhm.
and really like some of them, it starts to be a little too late to figure out what they're going to do with their lives.
Mhm.
And, if you stop being pro at 24, you can kind of figure it out. If you
Mhm.
stop being pro at 37, it gets a little tough to go, okay, what's my career going to be now?
Mm.
Most of the skaters find careers within skating, or they sort of organically find places they can move into.
Mhm.
And generally the people that have had a lot of trouble are people that are probably going to have trouble anyway,
Mm.
right?
That's
Like
interesting. Yeah.
people with bad attitudes or big egos or something. They're probably going to, skateboarding was probably like a good career they found, but not responsible for keeping them from finding something else to do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people I know, I feel like you take skateboarding away and they're going to find other things that make them happy,
Mm.
And maybe it wouldn't be something that is public facing that you would see, but I don't know.
Right. Are there any interviews that you did where you wished you asked a question that you didn't, or kind of like didn't go into a topic?
I can't think of any that I was scared to ask,
Mm-hmm.
but I could think of a lot of episodes where the skater had areas that they didn't want to go into.
So they tell you that beforehand, like we're not talking about this type of stuff, or
Yeah, or during or something. I remember like almost keeping track where there were so many episodes where every skater had their little like no-go zone.
Mm.
And those sucked sometimes. Sometimes it didn't matter, but sometimes like, oh, I wish we could tell a more thorough story here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said in an interview once, like all right, I want to talk about when you were addicted to heroin and homeless. And they're like, no, we're not going to talk about that. And you're like, what are we going to talk about? And they're just like, and that's kind of where the reason why I started the podcast with that quote. I thought it resonated or just reflected so well your frame of mind for Epicl'y Laterd. Just kind of like getting out the unbiased truth. Really documenting a story. And I love how it really is bigger than skateboarding. It's, yes, skateboarding is the foundation of all of these episodes, but it's about the individual themselves and their story and their story. And that's, I use that energy and that frame of working for the way I do podcasting as well and interviewing. And yeah.
Yeah, it's great when you get, you know what I think it is I've noticed I've wanted to do, there's been times where I've done music stuff and wanted to sort of adapt Epicl'y Laterd into like rock, like, because I always love like a rock biography or rock documentary about like musicians. And I had so much trouble because musicians, I think, are so conscious of their images.
Mm.
And I've noticed, even though all these pro skaters, or not all of them, but a lot of the pro skaters you think of have like an image, like a style or a fashion sense or a way of speaking or their music, but they're not very like it's not like they're media trained or they're constant, they're like constantly thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like Dustin Dolan isn't just sitting around thinking about his persona.
No.
He just is. And even Ali Boulala or like Jerry Sue, these people are kind of just who they are.
Mm.
And so when you interview them, they're not guarded with, they're not putting up all these like guards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice. Cause I remember, talking to a couple musicians and it's just like, they don't want stuff out there about them. They want to keep this, like this, they want to be like enigmas or,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, and, I mean, I guess we all have that. Like I have that though. Like I'm almost hesitant to do podcasts because sometimes I fear the more I talk and the more I run on, like the lamer it gets. And I think, but that's just my own insecurity.
Okay.
But I've noticed a lot of these pro skaters don't have that insecurity. They're just, you just get them in front of camera and they're just perfectly comfortable.
Yeah.
And they're not, and yeah, there's been a bit of, I don't want to talk about this or I don't want to talk about that, but for the most part, I've been blessed with a lot of skaters that don't seem to be too worried about it.
Yeah. So your process of interviewing, I mean, like as an inspiring interviewer, I look up to you in your ability to create a story with your guests, your subjects. What do you think has been your biggest strengths in terms of pulling the stories out of these people? Because like, as you said, like, it's not necessarily something people want to just pour out their story. Like you have to be there to kind of like do it with them in a sense. That's my feeling or experience with people. So what about for you?
Yeah. I've come up with little strategies to get people to open up.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them just sort of just happen, but I definitely have a little bit of a game plan.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think filming people in their own homes and being around things that make them feel comfortable. And plus I would use most of Epicl'y Laterd, besides when they were on Viceland, the television ones, the crew was just me. So I would just show up with a tripod and like this podcast. So it was a little more comfortable. I remember when we started doing the TV ones, there was such a crew because there was the sound person, the camera person, a producer, and the producer was in charge of getting releases. And then like even like a security guard to like guard our stuff. So suddenly we had like these crews of like 6 or 7 people. And the show, some of it was suffering for it. And I remember getting mad. I actually got angry at everybody because we were filming BAM in Spain, and I remember the sound guy was like, "It's too noisy here," and then the producer was like, "Yeah, but there's this art in the background. Like, there's something that
need.
can't be in the shot." And then maybe a cameraman would be like, "Wow, this shot's not good."
Mm.
And they were like, "Let's just film it at the Vice office." There was a Vice office Barcelona. We'll just go to Vice office Barcelona and film it. And then something else happened, and then we're like, "Yeah, we'll just do it at the Vice office." And I just finally got so mad. Like, my show isn't about filming people at the Vice office.
Mm.
Like, I remember like kind of snapping, like, which I usually don't do, but
You
I just
do not seem like the person that would
just was
ever
like-
snap.
like, I was just like, I don't care about the sound and the art in the background and what the picture looks like. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you do care about all those things, but I think I just had enough. Plus also the group things were taking too long.
Mm. Dude.
And I was just it was just my frustration of, I was used to just like, and I look back at some of the old episodes and they're filmed bad and whatever.
Because that's what the show is.
But
to
I'm just
me,
like,
at least.
we're in people's living rooms talking about, and I don't care what it looks like.
Right. It's not about the visual. To me, like, you shot on a VX for a long time, it looked like.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. And I was reading your earlier work. It's like you would have the ability to have a crew if you wanted, but you decided, fuck that. Like, I want to go out and get this stuff on my own time because like that's when it would happen. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, what
Am I quoting you right?
I believed was that the only thing you couldn't fix was audio. So if the sound was bad, you were fucked.
Yeah, right.
But if the picture's bad, you can just do stuff.
Archival footage, man. Like you found that out early.
I didn't even
guess.
care. And then I remember there was I watched the other day a trailer for this Cardiel one, and in it, the white balance changes during the shot, and I was just like, who cares?
Yeah.
And because to me, when we were talking about editing before, Brian McGinley told me he's a photographer, like an amazing photographer.
Mm-hmm.
He goes on these trips and shoots like 1 million photos, and he told me it's all editing. You just edit, and that's where the art is. You just shoot. So you shoot like 20 hours of crap. It's the editing. You edited it into something good, and you need the sound. It's like sound and editing. Everything else, I mean, you need the other stuff to be good. But I just remember with the television thing, I was just like it's all important, but I need to just start getting stuff on tape. I can't.
Well, for me,
I can't slow down for like location releases.
Like, I think what you did with those episodes when it was on Vice, you know, the TV version, was great. But for me, what was like the authenticity of Epicl'y Laterd was raw, like one individual shot, like on a VX, kind of like documenting the story. And you said, like, I treated it as a calling or a body of work, a personal project. Sometimes the work is its own reward. And I think that's so true with your earlier work. Like, for that show, is like, that was your work. That was all you, in a sense, to come up with that and make the story. And then it turns into something different when you have the sound guy and the producer. And I think eventually that's where it goes. Like, when you get successful, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
So
that quote from me was actually plagiarized from Sherlock Holmes. It was like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And
okay.
Someone comes to Sherlock Holmes and wants him to take a case. It's like a really interesting case, but they couldn't pay. And he said, the work is its own reward.
Oh,
and I was like, nice.
Dude, that's a good one, man.
And, but it's true. And it's like, you reminded me of like the pay was bad sometimes, or but I just loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only times I got really mad is not just the location release stuff, but also corporate interest. When someone's like,
yeah, because
we had a lot of people at Vice selling advertising, and they were trying to basically have me do like advertorial episodes. And I would be such a dick because they also wouldn't pay me more. So they would say, hey, do an episode. It'd be like, do this episode on Paul Rodriguez and we're going to go to the factory and we're going to talk about his Nike shoe. And I go, okay, well, how much do I get?
Yeah. Cut me in.
Like, break me off.
Yeah.
And they said, what do you mean? I was like,
I know what you're doing. Cut me in.
yeah. And they'd say nothing extra.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, so why can't I just go make the Antoine Dixon episode?
Yeah.
Like I'll fucking corporate chill all you want. But like,
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? Simple as that.
And usually it was nothing.
Mhm.
So I didn't even get the opportunity to sell out. It was just, but I would go. And I remember I started working on the Ed Templeton episode. And I remember the ad sales guy, like, I don't know if I can sell that because he skated for America and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not my problem. That's your problem as the ad sales guy.
because yeah, they wanted to do like advertorial episodes.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's a good business model, but I just, yeah.
At the end of the day, that's not what you want to do. That's not what any artist wants to do necessarily, is like, you don't approach it from that angle. What's going to make the most money?
So I think the work being its own reward, I'd rather make very little and make something I love, or make a ton and make something that sucks.
Mm.
And I've been in that position where I've gotten a paid job and made something that kind of sucked, but the client was happy and I was like, I don't care. Like,
That's so weird.
It's like advertising.
So weird.
But I want to like, it's like one or the other, like hire me to make a car commercial or I'm going to make this thing I love and I don't really care what I get paid.
Sometimes it's almost better to not work in the industry that you love and get paid, like exactly what you said, a car commercial. Like I don't have any love or heart for this brand or this sport of driving a car or getting to work on time. You know what I mean?
Right. And when things are somewhere in the middle, that's when things get kind of heartbreaking. When, because you're emotionally invested in some project and some suit is trying to change things for some reason. And that's when you get angry and things don't turn out well. And I would love it if there was like, if I could just be in one lane or the other.
Well, I think you can be in one lane. Like today, social media, the internet has created the ability to kind of be in your own lane, put out your own content, make money through advertising. Although there are problems that are happening today that it's crazy how it's like just, the problems of the past are bleeding into today's, specifically with YouTube and any of these big, like YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, like they can kick people off of their platforms for you have to get really big for it to be a problem, I think. You have to get to a very big point where they don't want to run advertisements on your content for it to be a problem, but it certainly does happen. But the point I was getting at is that there is the ability to create your own lane today, I think more so than there ever was.
Yeah. I was just thinking recently, I want a job like selling sprockets, like a job that has nothing to do with anything and then a creative outlet. And then I don't have to worry. So, you know what I mean?
I fantasize about being a carpenter actually.
Right.
And going and fixing up a house from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then I go home and I post my photos and on the weekends I surf and that's my life. And, and there's no failure. Like, it's like you tick the boxes off while you're at work and then you're done and you did your job. The problem when I'm trying to marry my love, my passion with my career is often if I don't do everything perfectly, I feel like I failed myself. And then I also feel like I failed my client. And it's very, very like, it's often making me not even try to start the job in the first place. But I guess you went past that. Like you have done like an amazing career. Like you're well through like an amazing time of doing so many cool things with different brands. And is that something that you ever worry about is, like, yes, maybe you checked off the boxes of the client's list, but maybe it didn't fulfill your own standards. Does that hold you back from submitting it? Or is it like, are you able to separate passion from work?
No, because like, I guess like I was saying, when it's something I care about, because I've also had the times where you're working on something and it gets taken away from you.
Mm.
Or like say you're directing a piece and it's for a client and there's producers and clients, and suddenly you as the director get dropped from the conversation. Like it's almost like in emails and your just name's taken off the CC because it's now gone into client. And that's happened with a lot of projects where you end up being like, you end up refereeing all these different voices, like all kinds of plot ideas. Like, well, I'm trying to think of examples, but there's just times where and that's usually where it mixes your passion project and money.
Mm-hmm.
And the money is usually like the corrupting force.
Yeah.
And then that's when it's sad. That's when you lose sleep over it too.
I can imagine.
Whereas I guess like we were just saying, if everything was neatly compartmentalized between money jobs and creative jobs, which I think a lot of people do. I mean, like actors do that, they go like, I'm going to be in a Marvel movie and then I'm going to do some sort of like Sundance film. And I don't know. Right now, I wish I got some more money jobs because what's funny though, protecting that personal integrity has at times made me a difficult person to work with. Like advice, where they go, God, Patrick's like a dick and just won't do what we say. And then other people get jobs and you don't get those jobs, and there's a consequence, and there's consequences in your career. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. And sometimes it's a gamble. And it's always tough to think too, because there's always people getting work that you're not getting, and like jobs that you want and other people get them. And then you're like jealous or sad or something. But then it's sometimes good to step back and look at the successes you had. And, it's tough looking at your career because there's successes and defeats. And sometimes like you sitting there wouldn't know what my successes and defeats are. Like jobs where I go, oh, that aspect of it was disappointing, or, and sometimes it's nice to be reminded that you've had some successes, because I can be sort of negative. And it's like I was saying with the pro skater, because I've interviewed pro skaters that got kicked off a company, and I'm like, yeah, but you got to like travel the world. And they're like, yeah, but I got kicked off. And so and it changes day to day, like depending on your mood or your feelings, whether you've had a successful career or had like some sort of spectacular failure. And sometimes in my head, I'm like, I'm a failure. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I killed it. Dude, you never know.
You are a skater, man. You lived the life, and you're still living the life of like an observer. And that's why I identify with you a lot, man. Like what I do is I love to observe and reflect on what other people are doing. And what you've done is been in the world of skating and observe what's going on and document and like be a fly on the wall in a sense. Please don't take offense if like I'm saying anything like, I don't know. So tell me, like, do you agree? I just think it's so cool what you've done, being able to be there and just like, just live it really, and not have many of the consequences of the drugs and the alcohol and like the negatives that come with the fame in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. There have been consequences, but yeah, I'm definitely blessed to have been around skating so long, and I'm definitely grateful that all these people let me interview them.
Yeah.
And that I've gotten these opportunities.
So what I see is like a skill of being an interviewer is like just not getting in the way somehow, just like being there and letting the story unfold and, kind of keeping it going if it comes to a lull. And I look up to you and I see that you've done that, and we could go on forever. So we're going to get into this next segment. It's called Instagram Lurks. So what I've done is I've gone through your Instagram a little bit And I've chose some of my favorite photos. So we're just gonna kind of go through them and talk a little bit about like, maybe if there's a story behind them, you can just click past it if you want. So the first one I did is the first photo you ever posted. And the reason with every person
I know why I posted it. Go ahead.
Tell me why. Why was it?
So I went to Soltech, and this guy who worked there named Fred Von Chi, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He was sort of like he does like social media for people.
Okay.
Like brands and stuff. He's like a social media guy. And he sat there and he's like, I want the whole team. I was working at Altamont, and he was like, everyone needs to join Instagram. He wanted the whole team on Instagram. This was early Instagram. And I remember I wanted the name Patrick O'Dell, and it was taken.
Really?
So I was like, I want it to be Patrick O'Dell, not Epicl'y Laterd. Now, if I was smart, you'd take them both, but I didn't think of that. But Patrick O'Dell was taken. So I took Epicl'y Laterd, and it was just taken by somebody with the same name as me, not like a squatter.
Yeah.
And then we went to this Peruvian restaurant where we always ate at Soltech. Like, so whenever you went in to talk to one of the bosses or something, they're like, hey, we're going to lunch, this Peruvian restaurant. And I got the vegetarian plate, and it's really good. And I've not found another Peruvian restaurant that I liked. But anyway, that was just like testing it.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here is literally just a test photo. He writes caption, test photo, work lunch, and it's a menu of some restaurant, a Peruvian restaurant, I guess.
I know, and I want to get that same meal, but that was all the way in Lake Forest, which is an hour south. And I really love the dish.
So June 16th, 2011. Let's go on to the next photo. So this next photo is about Altamont. And I guess I wanted to talk about this because we didn't talk about this at all, the brand Altamont. And as I was going through your Instagram, it looked like you worked with them quite a bit. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I was like shooting all their photos.
Okay. And what's cool about
I like that photo. I have a lot of hair.
The photo that we're looking at now is it's so funny because this is like the introduction of Instagram. It's like the early stages. It's like Altamont as a brand is saying these new dudes on Insta, you should follow them. And it's like they don't even know they're being corny. You know what I mean?
Right. So that guy Fred made that because he's like, oh, we want to give our team writers personalities and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's funny. It has seven likes.
Kyle Camarillo though.
And 6 others.
Yeah, 6 others. I know Kyle from he shot some Adidas work with us in Shanghai actually.
Okay.
I don't know if I guess he's San Francisco based.
Yeah.
So that's how you might know him. Yeah, so that's the Altamont photo. But what else about Altamont? Is it Altamont? Is that am I saying right? I had some of their jeans. They were amazing. They had like the stretchy jeans back.
Yeah, I loved working for them, and we always did like collaborators, and I was like a staff person, so I would go and shoot all the ads. Not necessarily the action photos, but I would shoot like a lifestyle and catalog and lookbook. Mm-hmm. And they would give me all the samples, and then we'd shoot like a lookbook or something.
Okay.
And yeah, I loved it. They made great clothes.
Yeah.
They still exist. So
they still exist. Yeah. Figgy is Killer Pizza. We're just looking at Andrew Reynolds' name used to be Andrew 333.
That's all Fred.
Yeah. Fred
is his name. He's like a social media guru.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. This next one, okay, this is your Hong Kong ID.
Yes.
Oh man.
They made everyone have an ID.
As like, so you were, this was
a Hong Kong identity card. It was like in a driver's license, but you don't drive.
Yeah.
And I think they were mandatory. And that bowl cut is interesting.
Pretty 90s, man. I had a bowl cut in the 90s, actually, when I was a kid. That was definitely like the thing to have.
It's a little bit of like a Tony Hawk hair because I was skating then, but it's also like little kid hair. Like in the 80s, like in Stranger Things, they all have bowl cuts. I think I just was like leftover like little kid hair.
Right. Well, we definitely already covered Hong Kong, so let's go on to the next one. This one, Jerry Sue and his board with, I guess that's Daewon on it, right?
Yeah.
And that was the joke, I guess. Tell me about this. Tell me about the photo.
I can't necessarily speak for the joke, but Jerry, I think, had maybe a lot of people thinking he was day one, or it's a little bit of like a race joke,
right?
That he was making.
So he chose this to be his.
I mean,
graphic.
that's his board graphic, yeah.
Of course, I guess.
He's
But you
very
know,
like-
sometimes pros don't get to choose. No.
Yeah, but Jerry is like a boss at Enjoy. Like he came up with everything,
Right.
or not everything, but like
For him, his
he
own
would choose his
identity,
own graphics and
like,
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Funny actually about Jerry. You know, so you did Push Fest in 2016. And you decided to put some photos up. One of them is Jerry Sue, like just chilling in a chair, like whatever. I took it home. I posted it on Instagram, or I sent him a photo of it, like, yo, some random dude in Shanghai has your photo in his room. And he's like, oh, sick dude. You know, my nut is in that photo. And I'm like, what? And I looked more at the photo and you can see like through his pants. And I'm like, oh my God. I immediately threw the photo. It's just so funny. And it's strange, man. Whenever I think of you, for some reason, I associate Jerry Sue and Templeton. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just through social media can do that. Like, I don't know you really. I just know you through social media. And I know Jerry and Ed Templeton. But do you have a relationship with those guys? Like, am I off that you are
I'm
closer
friends with
to them?
Jerry.
Yeah.
I'm friends with Ed, but I don't hang out with him all the time.
But you're close
But
friends with Jerry?
I text Jerry all the time, or we hang out all the time.
Mm.
And we used to be more closer friends, like when we were actually working together all the time. But yeah, I see him all the time.
That's awesome. That's kind of cool that I at least didn't perceive that wrong, I guess, that you guys are kind of close together.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is like a very iconic photo of Ali Bouala, I'd say. You took this photo?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it's cropped and it's a picture of a picture, so it looks better. The real photo looks better.
Of course, but we're just talking about the memory
It's Jerry,
right now.
I'm sorry, it's Ali telling a story I think we were in Switzerland, and he was in my hotel room, and I had met him once or twice, but I was so excited. Like he was like I think it was my hotel room, and he's like telling a story. And somehow that's the way he's describing the story. I think he was hamming it up because I started taking pictures. So even though he's like telling the story, he's also sort of posing for the photo.
Mm. It's just like this photo has been used so many times. But there's just such a feeling to it that's like, it feels like I can like me as a skater, I can tell you're on some type of a tour. I don't know, like it looks like a hotel room. I just really feel the moment in that photo. I just think it's great. And you've used it a bunch of times. Is there any other reasons why? Is it a favorite photo of yours? Or?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I just love Ali. And I love the pink or lavender curtains.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a fun night. And he's so quotable. I remember things he said that night. And
where is he from?
Stockholm, Sweden.
He's from Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And you said this was in maybe Switzerland?
Switzerland.
Okay.
Or either Lausanne, Switzerland, or Munster, Germany. I don't remember which place.
Okay.
But I was on a trip where we were going to like skate contests. And it was next door to one of the skate contests.
Hmm. Yeah, man. It just it looks like a moment. And it's awesome. Like this was back in, I guess, when do you think this was shot? Because like that's what's interesting about you and Instagram.
It's probably
you're re-uploading a lot of stuff.
That's from like, I would say it's pre-September 11th, so 99 or 2000.
Wow. Okay. Let's see the next photo.
That's how I can remember dates.
Wow. Speaking of September 11th, the next photo we're looking at is not from Instagram. It's from Patrick's blog, I believe, or I think his dedicated website.
It's just from Thrasher.
Yeah. You said, I think on your website, this was just, you did a series, like a photo show for Thrasher.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years or something. This is someone doing a back tail in front of the World Trade Center pre 9/11. Tell me about the photo.
Yeah, it's Ian Reed, and he lived in Brooklyn, and he's a great skater. Not the best as far as pros go, but I don't think he was ever really pro, but he's a great skater. And he had the idea for the photo, so I used a 200 millimeter lens, which is a pretty long lens. And then I set up a flash. So there's a flash over by him to light him. It's probably the farthest distance I could get the flash to go off. And that photo's on a tripod. And yeah, not a big trick or anything. And it's funny because back then everyone wanted to do like, Thrasher wanted photos for like giant handrails. Everyone was like stair counting. And and I don't even think they were necessarily going to run it. Like it wasn't the kind of thing they were running back then. Now people are a little more liberal about like what they would run, like creative photos, like not hard tricks. But really then that was in the height of stair counting and like flip skateboards and like people going big. So it's just a backside tail slide on a ledge. It's not really like that hard of a trick, but I was really excited that they ran it.
Yeah, I mean it's a great photo, and there's oddly enough a bunch of photos, maybe not oddly enough, but with the World Trade Center in the background, like skate photos. You know, LES Skate Park had a quarter pipe back in the day with a shot of the Twin Towers that you could get.
Yeah.
Were you in New York during 9/11?
Yeah.
Do you have a story?
Well,
like, I think everyone has a story. Right. Personally, like what everyone remembers where they were. Yeah. That's what I mean by that.
Oh yeah. I watched it.
Okay. That's a real story then. So tell me.
My mom called me. I was drinking then or whatever. It was early in the morning. So my mom called, the phone rang and my mom called and she's like, we're being attacked. New York's being attacked. And I thought she was on some like AOL, like, I thought she was, that had to be like viral things that are not true. Like Facebook forwards. This is before then. This was like AOL. Anyway, I thought she just heard some nonsense. Yeah. And I was looking out my window at the city and was like, no, everything's fine. And she said, no, the World Trade Center. And that was a different window because I was looking more at the Empire State Building. And I looked out the other window and yeah, it was on fire. And I think my first reaction was I thought it was like Die Hard. Like I thought the like Russians did it or like Eastern Europeans. And there were helicopters flying around because maybe there was newscopters or something. And so I didn't know also that it was planes crashing in. I thought it was like missiles. Yeah. So I was thinking like, oh my God. I was thinking like a James Bond or Die Hard plot.
I'm thinking more of a true movie in a sense.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, the Russians did it or something. And then, I watched it on my roof and I also remember when they fell, it was really silent. Like it fell quietly.
Where were you in the city?
Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Oh, so you were watching it from across the river.
Yeah. Okay. But it's pretty adjacent. It's right adjacent to the World Trade Center. So yeah, it was further from Manhattan, but it still was like really big in my vision, and those buildings were humongous. And I remember when it fell, it was perfectly quiet. And then if maybe 10 seconds to 30 seconds later, it was like rumbling like an earthquake. Whoa. But I almost didn't connect the two things because I'm just in shock. I'm like, and I called my sister called and she was watching on the news and they were showing people dying. Like, but from where I was
terrible.
Where I was, it was silent and I couldn't see anyone dying. So it was, I mean, everyone was in shock, but I'm just watching it with my own eyes. And it was almost like peaceful, right?
Because you're far away enough that you don't see the intimacy of what's going on. Yeah.
I was about the same distance as like this photo, across the river, but like it felt like it was right there because I looked at it every day. And I went onto my roof. And I remember there's people working on the roof next door and they were hammering and they didn't even stop. They were just like doing the roof, kind of looking at it. But it was quiet until it rumbled. It was like an earthquake.
Oh my God.
And then it happened again. It fell and then rumbled. So for a while, there was just one tower. And then I feel like I had like post-traumatic stress from it, even though I wasn't that close. It was just scary.
Yeah.
And, I remember being really scared and, but then it's same thing. Like it didn't feel real. And I remember, I didn't have cable either. So I had just antenna television And I remember every ambulance scared me, and I would drink I was like drinking a lot, and every ambulance I would hear scare me, and I'd turn on the TV just to see if there was like another attack.
Wow.
And then I remember it didn't really become real until I went to one of the hospitals, or I was just walking in the street, and all the flyers for the people that were missing.
Oh my God.
That's when it was real, like a block, the hospital, entire circular of the hospital, entire block was just missing person posters. Like, have you seen this person? And so you're looking like, oh, that person's dead.
Yeah.
And then another really sad thing is I think I had broken up with my girlfriend or something. I had to go apartment hunting. And me and her, we were still together. I don't remember, but we were apartment hunting. And the rents prices had gone down. So many people died that the rents were cheaper.
That's very interesting.
So we would go to a place and they would go, yeah, this rent was $1,600 and now it's $1,300. And one place we looked at was somebody that died. And we were like, it was in Dumbo. And I forget, it was just like a studio apartment or something. And they were like, yeah, the guy who lived here died at September 11th, like in the towers. The rent used to be this, now it's this. It's like a discount.
Wow.
It's like fucked up.
It's but it's like, it's a very true story. It's the reality of what happened.
Yeah. 3,000 people died.
Yeah. 3,000 plus.
You know, a lot. And that is a lot of apartments.
It's the reality of what happened. For me, I was in 4th grade. I mean, like, I don't have much of a pre and post 9/11 life. I think a lot of people today who are 35 years older have a pre and post 9/11 life. For me, I was in 4th grade when 9/11 happened. So most of my life is post 9/11. I think I find, I like talking to people about their pre and post 9/11 life if they do have a pre 9/11 life.
But I can date almost anything that's happened, like any skate photo.
Pre or post.
Yeah.
That's because when you said that, or we were talking about this before, that's why it was crazy. The photo before this, with Buala, you were like, oh, that was a post, that was pre 9/11. And then we go to the next photo and it's, the towers. So, yeah, man, so you were saying you can date a lot of stuff just based off of that?
Yeah, pretty much anything.
Wow. Yeah. It's just such a moment in anyone's life today. Totally. Okay. So the next photo. This is another Ali Buala photo.
Oh, I didn't take that photo.
You posted it though.
I posted it, but Jay Strickland took that photo.
Jay Strickland.
He was the guy who ran Baker back in the day, and he ran Bootleg.
Okay.
He's a sort of notorious skate industry person, and he took that photo, and I love that photo.
Can you tell me about Jay Strickland? Because I didn't want to talk about this, but since not that I didn't want to, but I didn't have a reason to. But since you said the name in an interview you did with Jenkum, someone commented like, I wish he had talked more about Jay Strickland. I wish he had talked more about who he was. I don't even know who Jay Strickland was. So maybe you can tell whether it's short or long.
He's just someone that ran Baker. He started it in sort of, I don't know if it's partnership, but Andrew started Baker, I think with his money, hired Jay to like run it for him. Okay. Jay's just one of those like sort of alpha personalities. Like someone's always like talking, and it's like a salesman, and he's always like, and he's just a big personality in skating. Okay. And he does interviews where he like talks shit on everybody and like says stuff. But that same personality is also sort of, he's controversial. Okay. Like he got fired from Baker and then he started a rival company, and then he's just a controversial type, really interesting person, but he's like if skating was like pro wrestling, he's just like one of those characters. Okay, cool. So for the guy who commented on the Jenkum article, now you have your answer. That's who Jay Strickland is. The next photo, okay, fucking Phelps, man. This is, a big one for dude, Phelps, Thrasher magazine. He was Thrasher, right? Tell me your relationship with Phelps. Well, I mean, I don't know where to start, but I could tell you about this photo. That was this place called Sway. It was like a Smiths and Morrissey night in New York that was like such a popular party. And on Halloween, they did like a dress up, like a Morrissey lookalike contest.
Mm.
And so I dressed like sort of Smiths era Morrissey at the contest. And then Jake was there. And I felt like it was peak me kind of wiling out in like and kind of like how you have these separate personalities.
Yeah.
Like I was even saying in San Francisco, you have like how you are around skate and then how you're around. And Jake's a pretty like intimidating person. And I was kind of dressed like Morrissey, like peak. I don't know if it's like flamboyant or just doing some not skate stuff. And then ran into Jake. And I was like, fuck.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit, I'm busted. I think I wrote on my blog, I think I wrote like Smith's night. I thought this was Smith's Grinds night as a joke. And I and then we took a photo. But Jake, I don't know where to start with Jake.
There's so much to say, man. I know you can't break it down. Like that could be a whole episode probably. Is just Jake Phelps. But yeah, man, like what he did for the skate industry, like I never met him. I never was around him, but I know he just kind of pushed people to really like, oh, who was it? Johnny Tang. Johnny Tang is a dude in Shanghai. He told me he has like a Phelps story. Like he was trying to skate a set of stairs and he didn't really have anything to do, but Phelps is like, fucking go, just fucking go, like do it. And he did something out of nowhere that he would have never done unless there was that energy pushing you.
Mm-hmm. So Jake, there's a lot of stories like that. Like Jake is like gets people to do stuff. He wants to see some action. He's like and always loved skating. The way I've said, I've sort of my interests and sometimes like I can tune out skating a little bit. He never tuned out skating. He's like a lifelong skateboarding fan. And it's like, and somebody that ran, you know, like somebody in the industry, somebody who's run these magazines, but always maintained this like interest and would always know about every new up and coming skater, knew all the trivia, knew everything that's ever happened, just an encyclopedia knowledge of skating. And also always on the road with skaters. And yeah, I look up to him because sometimes I would be in the van on a skate trip and just like over it. Like, this sucks. I just like, can we go home? Can we stop and get some food? Like whatever. And Jake on a skate trip is like hyping people up every day.
I think it takes a different type of person. Like, I think at least maybe you relate to the idea of a constant change. Like I really need change in my life to kind of keep moving and, you know, just for my mental health. Change is good for me. A refresher at least. When you're talking about Jake, you say like he just was always with it. That's so different from me. Like someone that's so invested and ingrained in that culture is special. And I think that's why someone like that is celebrated.
I also think I need like 16 hours of alone time per day. You know what I mean? I need to like check out and be alone.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of people are really extroverted and just like don't need that.
I think that's why you fit so well for the role of a documentary maker. Like introvert can fit that well to just be behind the camera and be capturing the moment.
Because now I have to remind myself to go be social sometimes. I'm like, oh, it's been a week and I haven't really left like a couple blocks from my house.
Yeah.
I need to reach out to some people to like go get lunch or something. And I don't think Jake had that problem.
No, he could kind of just wander out his house, you know. Let me move on to the next one real quick. Oh, Harold Hunter.
Oh yeah. I didn't take that photo. That's a photo of a photo. That's Liz Goldwyn and Harold Hunter.
Did you ever meet Harold?
Oh yeah, we went on skate trips together. I knew him.
Really?
I knew him pretty well.
Dude, again, before my time type of person, but he was a Zoo York dude, you know, blood of New York guy. I think of Brooklyn Banks when I think of him. I think of the movie Kids. I think of, you know, 90s skateboarding. What about you? What do you think of when you think
I think of all those things. And he's just very similar to Jake. A lot of the same things I said about Jake apply to Harold. Um, Harold's the kind of person, like if you were skating near his house, like he would like stick his head out the window and like start yelling, and really outgoing, and like Jake battled like demons.
Okay.
You know, these are like troubled people where they have this like extroverted side that's outgoing and interesting, and you know, but they both died from the same. Well, I don't know exactly how Jake died, but
That's what's interesting.
They both struggled with substances and stuff too. And but Harold was fun, man, and I really loved him. And I went on a trip with him, and I remember we shared room at one point, and I remember just I'm like, man, this is a good guy, and he's in some ways he wasn't like the smartest, but he was like caring, and he was funny, and you could like. I just remember being like, this is fun. Like I could sit and talk to Harold, you know, like I had a lot of like compassion for him. And also he was like fun. He's nice, you know?
Yeah.
And he was very open-minded and very, he liked everybody. Because sometimes, you know, we can all get caught up, and Jake can get caught up in like, I don't like this person. I like this person, like casting judgment on people. And that was nice about Harold. I don't feel like he judged anybody.
That's cool.
And, you know, it's a cliche at this point with Harold, but everyone has their like, when I first came to New York, I hung out with Harold. Like,
really, that's a thing that people would say. Like
the first person I met in New York was Harold Hunter.
That's
not my case, but when I met Harold, it's like, it's just so charismatic.
That's cool, man. In ways, I'm envious that you lived through that golden era, but in ways, you know, that's just like individuals' lives. You know, like everyone lives their own life. Everyone has their own journey.
Yeah. There's all.
Do you think about that? Do you think like you were graced to live through a certain moment?
No, but sometimes people ask me about people. I guess like you're asking me about these people I know. And to me, you know, sometimes it's just like, these are just the characters in your life or whatever. Maybe now that they're gone, I can hold them to that reverence. But when I moved to New York, I thought of Andy Warhol and Lou Reed and David Bowie and all these people that were gone. So or David Bowie was still alive. And sometimes people go, that's David Bowie's apartment up there. And so those are the, you know, and I met Glenn O'Brien once. He's no longer alive, but there's these people, interesting people in New York history. And I think I lived in this apartment, and someone's like, oh yeah, Andy Warhol's factory was also in this building. And so I look at that as some kind of golden era, but it's like that in The Office. What is it? He says, I wish when you were in the good old days that you actually knew you were in.
Andy Bernard. Yeah.
Andy Bernard. I wish someone would tell you.
Yeah.
Because I remember, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to like name drop you, you know, whatever, but you go like.
A name, someone, yeah.
You know, but you go like, oh, I can't believe I guess to other people, that person's like really special and represent. Well, Jake and Harold Hunter.
Yeah. I think it's like they weren't maybe the people that they are to me now when you were growing up with them.
Yeah.
So like, yes, they were cool people and influential people at the moment, but they didn't have these halos around them at the moment.
Right. And I'm finding myself having to watch what I say about Jake and Harold because they are flawed.
Right. That's
people.
What's interesting. That's what's crazy, or not crazy, but you know, these people, they did have their own problems. And when they were alive, you may be able to say negative things about them when they're alive. But when they're passed away, you can't talk about these negative things anymore.
Yeah, especially because you know rumors and you know things. And you don't want to air out stuff that you're not even particularly sure of yourself.
And when I think it's just like these people are not around to defend themselves. So that's part of why
So
you
yeah,
can't
like
do
I wouldn't
this?
say it in a podcast, but I remember when Jake died, I met up with this woman who worked at Thrasher, who I'm really good friends with. And we met up just to unpack our feelings. Like, man, this is like fucking me up.
Yeah.
And good and bad, and our stories, we were sort of like processing them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not all good stuff. Some of it's like bad stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying, and it's, but I guess if you were to put it on a scale and weigh it, it's positive. These were like great legendary people in skateboarding. And these are like the biggest names ever in skateboarding. But you could go like, yeah, that guy could be kind of an asshole too.
Yeah.
And I think Jake and Harold both, there were times where if I saw, no, this is so unfortunate, so regrettable, but there were times where I could see them and avoid them. Go like, oh shit, here comes Jake. Like avert your eyes so that he doesn't zero in on us and like hold court for the next 2 hours. Like, you know, you go, I just can't really deal with like having like some Jake time right now. And it sucks because I'll never get any more new Jake stories, at least from my own personal experience. And same with Harold. There's times where you go like, oh man. And so, you know, it sucks because those a year where I will never meet another Jake or another Harold. And, you know, and there's people now that are alive that might be a little crazy and I might want to avoid them.
Yeah.
But there are, it's almost like they're like skateboarding deities and we like worship them. But I remember I wrote a eulogy sort of thing for him for Vice and I used the word problematic. And the guy said the word problematic is very loaded these days. And I wrote, yeah, I'm using it in the loaded way.
Whoa.
But I think they changed the word, but I was like, no, I'm using it that way. I know it's loaded. It's, I don't know.
When you were talking about like, you would maybe look away if they were approaching on the street. I relate to that, not through those people, but through other people in my life where, for example, Harold and Jake, I don't know them personally, but it sounds like they act on a level that's like above 100. Like you just are like going and having like the time of your life when you're around them, no matter what. And I relate to being an introverted type person where it's like, I have to turn myself on to be in that situation. So I relate to what you're saying where like, it's crazy. Cause like even now, and I appreciate you saying that, like I would look away even if they were coming, and you recognize that now because there are people in my life today that I look away from, and I even if they were gone, I'd be regretful.
Yeah, I think I saw Jake once in a mall, and I was walking with my friend, and I almost went like to my friend, like, "Oh, there's Jake," and my reaction was to just like duck away and not get involved. And then my friend's like, "Hey, Jake." And then we had 2 hours of coffee shop Jake, but he said some stuff that I will never forget. And same with Harold. I was on a trip once where we were in a very sketchy area in Atlanta and we checked into our rooms and I was like, I need to get my bags into the room because this is sketchy. And he immediately started talking to these like drug dealers. And then we got attacked. I woke up in the middle of the night to screaming and it was him and he got robbed.
Oh my God.
And it was like the kind of shit that sucks. And we had to take the other kid to the hospital because he got robbed, like hit over the head. And you're like, shit, that sucks. And it was dangerous and people could have died. And, you know, and so I don't know.
Well, what I see is like while you might not want to get into these moments with people like that, at the end of the day, it's rarely regretful when you do get in that. Like you have in a moment, like the 2-hour coffee shop talk with Jake or this crazy story that happens with Harold. Like at the end of the day, it ends up being an amazing experience that becomes a story that is cool and a good part of your life. But the foresight of it before it happens is like, at least for me and you, or at least me, is like, I don't want to be getting involved with that at the moment. I just want to be introverted and, you know, alone.
Yeah.
I guess.
And Jake just attracts so much attention and is so unruly. Like there's a part of me that grew up like trying to have manners and trying to behave a certain way in public. And he breaks all that stuff, which is why why people are so attracted to him. But like sitting across from him in like a polite restaurant, I just start getting like anxiety. Like, man, this guy, you're making a scene, man.
Making a scene.
Stop, man. And
like
that's
crawling
me.
Skin. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me living by different rules. I don't know. He's free though. He's like G.G. Allen. And
He's free.
Like,
he's free. All right, on to the next one. This is you and Mr. Black, Mr. Jack Black.
Oh yeah, I met Jack Black a few times, and that was at a Rocky Erickson show, and apparently he was supposed to play Rocky Erickson in like some sort of movie.
Okay,
but that was just a fan out photo right there. But I hung out with him once. Me and Spanky and him hung out. I remember he called me Kurt Cobain because I had long hair. But I remember almost everything he said. Like we just like kicked it in a hotel room.
This is a classic fan out photo.
That's a fan out photo. I'm just saying I had another experience with him, and I didn't try to recall the other experience. No, I'm saying one time me and Spanky and him hung out, but I can't really elaborate. But it was just
fair enough. Keep that one for the dome.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun. He's a great person.
Next
and I'm a huge
one,
fan.
Next one is another maybe fan out photo.
No, that's I got.
Did you take that photo?
I took that photo.
Yeah, right. So tell me about meeting Lil Wayne.
I went to a hotel room and it's just me and Lil Wayne, and I took those on like a T4, and it was a photo for Vice.
Wow.
And I don't have the negs anymore or anything, so the photos just like doesn't exist as far as my like archive body of work. But I hung out with Lil Wayne in a hotel room, and it was just me and him too. And I think I was just shooting on like a T4, like a Yashica, and I had like maybe my real camera. But I remember sitting in the hotel room and he was watching TV. He was watching like BET or something. And he was telling me about someone on TV. Basically, he was telling me about some like hip hop beef or something. And I had no idea who the players in the story were.
Okay.
I was like, And then I also learned something is that he went and got all these like crispy, like plain white t-shirts that had the creases in them. And I realized I learned that he only wore shirts once.
Yeah, this is a crispy white tee right here.
Right. And so he had all the crispy white tees, and you only wear a t-shirt once.
Mm-hmm.
And it never occurred to me that that was even something you could do. Like wear a shirt and then throw it away.
Yeah.
Which is not very sustainable, but I just was learning, you know. But it was only like, it was like me a half hour, me in his room, took some pictures. And I don't have the negs, and I don't even have a digital. Like I just have the scan from the magazine. The negs vanished. But yeah, I photographed Lil Wayne.
What's cool to hear about is you shot him on a T4. Do you have memories of transitioning from film to digital?
Yeah, I guess so.
Is it like a game changer for you? For some people? It's a game changer.
It actually made me. I kind of quit Thrasher right at that. I never got a digital camera for shooting for Thrasher, and I kind of couldn't afford it, and I didn't think they looked good at the time.
Digital,
sorry,
yeah.
And I didn't make that transition. And I think if I had bought like a digital camera at that time, I might have kept shooting for them. But it was just one of the obstacles. So I only shot film for them. I think for Vice, I shot film on that one just for the hell of it. But that might have been when I could have just.
Oh, dude! Speaking of Vice, the next one. Who is this?
Oh,
who are these
ATL twins?
ATL, dude. I think they're on a cover of Vice, or they're in a King of the Road episode or something. I don't know exactly, but these dudes, for some reason, I know their faces.
They were at a party. I went to a party and they came in with Harmony Korine.
So these are the ATL twins. You know that. I don't know. I don't know.
That's what they are.
Okay. It says it right there. They have like a chain. ATL twins. Yeah, dude. Take a look at them again. Tell me about the story, the party, this photo.
That was just a party. I think that was at the Chateau Marmont. And I was going to like someone's birthday party. And I think they rolled in with Harmony Korine because he was working with them. I think. But anyway, they were there. But then it was funny because they knew who I was. And I was like,
That's amazing.
oh, that's cool. You guys like must have skated or something. I don't know much about them though, because I don't follow like every pop culture thing. I mean, who can?
Can't.
But
it's cool that you captured a moment in their.
But they were so shocking that it was like, I need to like figure out these guys. But I still don't know all that much about them.
To me, even though this is like a posed photo, it is not street photography, but it's like capturing a moment that isn't posed. You know what I mean? How do you? I don't know. I just think it's Who did you say? Harmony Kareem?
Harmony Kareem. He's a director.
Okay. Yeah. Just looking like cool photos. I know you're running out of gas and we got to move on soon. This next one is Dylan.
And his dog Hank and Tino.
Yeah, man. So
I forgot. I didn't.
Tell me about the photo then.
Yeah,
Start out with.
That must just be sitting out front of Supreme, and there's not much of a story there. I was probably just wandering around Supreme. Who's that? Oops. I don't know. Tino was one of my best friends, and we used to live together. And then Dylan, of course, is an amazing, best skater, one of the best ever. And that's his dog, Hank. And Hank, I don't know where he lives now. Hank's still alive.
The dog?
Dog. His sister or somebody took the dog.
So tell me more about your relationship with Dylan, though. Like, how'd you meet him?
I don't know. I wasn't necessarily like great friends with him. Like he's so much younger than me. But like, he's a great person. Like I always admired him. And, like I hung out with him socially, but like some of these people like Jerry or Spanky, they become like my best friends because they're a little closer in age. Dylan,
because, he was in the height of his career when he passed away. People, it's like uncomprehendable for a lot of people out there to just, I don't understand it. Like, how does someone like that just all of a sudden pass away? Like,
yeah. And he was very private about his
that's what's crazy about it.
So he wouldn't tell anyone. And I even reached out to him to see if he wanted to do like an episode talking about it. And it was just, he didn't want to. And, and it was, it was like a secret that he was sick. And, I remember, and then everyone thought he got better. So he got better. So he was really sick and then he got better. And then one day, I was actually staying with Tino, the other guy in the photo.
Okay.
And, he told me, he's like, cause he was closer to him. And his mom called him and said like, hey, come to the hospital. He just was like, come to the hospital and come see Dylan. And nobody knew that he was even in the hospital, or not nobody, but like a lot of people didn't
Very
know.
few people.
And then they were like, no, you need to come see him to say bye. And it was so sad because I didn't feel close enough with Dylan to come to his hospital.
Yeah. But
I knew that Tino was there. So maybe there was like 10 people or 15 people or something. And it was so sad because he's just like, yeah, he's going to die. Like he told me. So I'm staying in his house and, Andrew Allen was also living there and they were both really close to him. And they were like, basically I knew they were going to say bye to Dylan.
Yeah.
So, it was really sad knowing that he was about to die. And then I went to work. I was actually working on the Big Brother thing and I went to the office and we were like editing and working and I kept checking. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't want to bother people that were there. And then I kept checking like social media to see if there was any word about news or word about it. But,
Did you end up going to see him at his hospital? Did you?
No, I didn't go.
You didn't go.
I didn't feel comfortable because I didn't. Like these
Didn't-
guys. These guys skated with him all the time. These are like his best friends.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite like that to go to the hospital. I just knew the people I was staying with were at the hospital. So I just laid there worried.
Mm.
And then the next day, or maybe this was over the course of like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, I have no idea. All I know is I saw him in the Cherry video. It was one of the first time. He was in Cherry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I think he
Blessed.
Cherry was the first video that Supreme ever
one
put
with
out.
the NXS song is his epic part.
I would guess Cherry. I don't know.
Cherry.
I would guess Cherry. Either way, I just remember he was just like, he had like like a lot of the guys on Supreme do. They do a very good job at choosing who's like a unique individual. I think that's one thing that Supreme excels at, is choosing a unique individual who's not necessarily the Supreme brand, but their own brand, and they put it under Supreme. I think that's what they do very well. Like everyone on their team is an individual, and Dylan was an individual who had amazing impossibles. Like I think that's what he was known for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Impossibles for Dylan. That was like a thing for a minute.
Well, my biggest memory was that when he made like Minefield, it wasn't that great of a part. It was great skating,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he was going through some stuff or something. And then, so I always hear this excuse, like when I'm shooting skate photos or no skaters, they're always like, there's nothing to skate. Like there's no more spots. All the spots are blitzed. There's nothing to skate. And Dylan he worked on that Gravis video part.
Yeah.
I think there's like a Cass McComb song or a T-Rex song or something. And he, the entire part is all around West Hollywood. And the entire part is right in the center of where everyone's always skating. And so many people would make an excuse, but Dylan is such an exceptional skater and one of the best to ever do it. Not just in style, but just in
Pure
skill.
talent. Pure talent.
Pure talent. And you can take away his like clothing style or even his like good looks and strip it down to just tricks.
Yeah.
And he was dominating all these spots, all within like 6 or 7 blocks of like Fairfax and like Melrose and Sunset, and filmed an entire part without having to resort to flying to like all those Lakai videos. Everyone flies to like Shanghai and everyone flies to somewhere to get undiscovered spots, because they're also, not only you're trying to find an undiscovered spot because you want to do something easy on a new spot. Because it's a little easier, because no one's ever skated it.
Right. You do something simpler on something that's brand new, and it's new.
Right.
Yeah.
No, no one's had the chance to like one up you.
Mm-hmm.
So you find all these skaters that have to, and Dylan just went to and skated all this stuff that any one of these other pros could have had plenty of opportunity to skate. And that entire, I don't know for a fact, but I feel like the majority of the part is within a square mile.
Minefield, that's
no, Gravis.
Oh, Gravis.
The Gravis footwear part, it came with a magazine, and one unfortunate thing is the part came with a Skateboard Mag, which was one of the magazines then. And I always felt like if it came with Thrasher, like if he had given it to Thrasher, he would have won Skater of the Year.
It's interesting how brands can do that, huh?
Thrasher they really want their Skater of the Year to be like their skate, like people that are doing stuff for them, and they use it a little bit as a carrot to dangle so that they get the best photos.
Dude, I felt pretty, one year there was someone who rode heavily for Vans and got Skater of the Year. And I'm just like, maybe it's because he rides for Vans, he got Skater of the Year.
I don't know if it's necessarily their brand loyalty, but some of it's like their magazine loyalty. Like they look at it as like their guys. So if somebody's shooting a Thrasher interview and going on tour with like some of the, like doing stuff for them, they do try to differentiate. It's called Thrasher Skater of the Year, and not necessarily like
Skater of the Year.
Right. So,
but they do claim it to be Skater of the Year.
Right. But
because they own the category so hard.
Right.
It's an interesting thing.
So Dylan was doing all this stuff for other photographers and other stuff. And I just remember thinking like, man, if you'd given that to Thrasher, maybe not that it matters because he's like skater of the decade. Doesn't matter.
That's cool. Let's claim
Like,
it here.
in my opinion.
Let's claim it right now. Dylan Skater of the Decade.
In my opinion.
10 to 20. Man, Dylan. Such a good dude from the video parts I got to see, and he had it all. He had like the looks, the style, and the skill, man. It was really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on another one.
Oh yeah, that's Dustin. When I first met him, he's so young. That was when I lived in San Francisco and went to art school.
Really? So you met him when you were in art school?
Yeah, he's like 15 there.
Wow.
So I was in college and he was like 15 and we had a party. Oh, and the theme of the party is that you had to dress up.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is because you have a party back then. This is before we were 21. You have a party and everyone shows up and all these assholes show up. So we made it like a dress code in order to like keep the numbers down. And Dustin showed up in a tie and a leather jacket. And that's when there was like not a lot of skaters that were like that, dressed like that and stuff. And God, I have such a love-hate with Dustin. There's part of me that like hates him.
Well, I imagine like, so he's Baker, and you're reminding me of something I read about, like you went on one of the first Baker tours and you absolutely did not vibe well with the situation. Like you were asked to drive and you're like, okay, I'm cool to drive. But then you find out you're driving your own car. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But like there's like they were like priding themselves and they call it being torturous. And
that's like something I can feel through the videos. Baker, I don't know Dustin, but like the Baker energy in general, I can feel what you're talking about.
So I remember Dustin did something that made me so mad. He's done multiple things that made me so mad that I want to kill him. It really did. And I remember calling Andrew like, I am so fucking mad at Dustin.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we all are all the time, every time. Like that's just because then the thing is about Dustin though, he's so manipulative and he'll like make you so mad, like just such low blow, like something. And then the next time he'll be like, why don't you like me? And then he'll tell you some story and you feel like bad for him. Like he said, like he'll have like a relationship problem. He'll be like, I'm having a problem. And then you're like, it's okay, Dustin. And you're like consoling him. You're like, oh, he's such a good dude.
He's manipulative.
And then he'll do something to piss you off. But he'll do this like emotionally with things he says. But like a physical example is one time he bit my head and it hurt. So I punched him in the arm and he cried. He was like, oh, you're crazy. And like went away. And I'm like, wait, it's so much gnarlier to bite someone in the head than it is to punch them in the arm. Like punching someone in the arm's like kind of socially acceptable.
Of course.
Doesn't hurt that bad.
Yeah.
And he's like that. Like he'll dish it out, but he can't take it. And God, I think we were talking recently. Because we still talk. He's like I consider him one of like my like a longtime friends. But man, do I hate him sometimes. He loves to push buttons.
Yeah.
And bring up stuff that you don't want to hear and just say like the rudest thing he could say, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting, man. Let's see what we got else. I know we're running short on time. Let's see what else. This is another Ali Bouala photo. It's the same one that you took, but this one I wanted to bring up because you are promoting Years of Pictures by Patrick O'Dell. So what I wanted to ask you is when you do a photo show, what are your goals in doing a photo show? Like, is it just to portray what you've done over the past years?
It's tough because I realized that like a long time ago, I thought, like I said, I wanted to be like a gallery photographer and I was shooting all these portraits of people and that like, because I was interested in people and like trying to tell their stories that nobody wants to buy a picture of a person usually.
Almost never.
Right?
Almost never.
Like if I was buying photography, if I was like, I'm going to buy, I might like a human in the photo, but I don't want it to be a picture of somebody that I know, like I recognize or something.
Yeah.
And so I realized I was never going to make a lot of money doing photos. And I remember at that show though, I just priced everything really cheap and I got all the prints done at like Costco. So I think the prints were all like $20.
Mm.
And I remember feeling like I had a much more successful show and like a fun show because the prints were.
Because it was cheaper.
Yeah, so I sold tons of.
Is that partly because you sold a lot, or
no? It was just because I stopped caring about like the certain pretensions. And actually, someone Instagrammed me today, and had bought 2 of the pictures, or their mom had bought 2 of the pictures, and they had them framed. And then he said his mom had died, and his mom bought them for him. But anyway, he was showing them framed, and then part of me is like, "Where did you get those pictures?" And I forgot that I did the Costco prints. So the prints were like $4 each. Yeah, I think it was like $20. But I think by that time, what I was trying to convey is like, let's just throw a party and put some pictures up and not get too like precious about it. Because I don't think I'm ever going to be, never going to be like Robert Frank or somebody. Like, just like, let's just have fun and kind of like it's like an episode of my show, like a gallery of just little stories. And not get too worried about it.
Okay. Dude, I have so many more photos here. I would love to go through them, but I know we're running short on time.
Yeah, this might be, nobody is probably listening to this far in.
We're like,
everyone's dropped
2 hours.
Everyone's dropped out.
Maybe we could pick this up again some other time, but as we start to wrap up, maybe we can, what kind of future projects do you have going on? What do you have? What are you hopeful for the future about?
I have a couple dream projects that are floating in my head that I would like to get made. And it's sometimes really hard to get something made. If Vice called and were like, do 8 more episodes, I would do it.
So you're not signed on for any future Epicl'y Laterds?
And there's no falling out or anything. I think they like lost interest in skating a little bit because they also canned King of the Road, which was the other skate show.
They like bought that. Can you tell me?
I don't know. No, I
they
don't.
Didn't buy King of the Road, did they? Or?
No, I don't think they bought it. Like Thrasher can still do King of the Roads without Vice. Like not the show, but they can. It's
of the magazine version,
right?
Yeah.
I don't know the details. I just know that it isn't there. And we had talked about doing another season, but then I just got the impression that maybe like you always need the like right person to sign off on things. I don't know how things get greenlit.
Yeah.
But but that's the disclaimer. If Vice was like, do more episodes. And I thought maybe about doing some more internet ones. But
would you, if you wanted to, just do whatever?
I don't know. I was thinking
under Epicl'y Laterd.
No, I'm pretty much married to Vice as far as the name of the show and everything. But if I would do it.
Let's see it.
I have a day job. Well, not a day job, but whatever. I do a lot of stuff for Vans.
Yeah.
And we work on a lot of stuff. And then I'm trying to make, actually, I got to go dig up the negs. I'm going to make a photo book about my Mississippi trip with Heath.
Okay, we got to do another episode in the future because I would love to ask more questions, but we just can't. It's too long.
There's not a lot of pictures of Heath in it, but my friend who makes books and zines and stuff, we wanted to make one. And I made a personal one where I made like 5 or 6 copies of every photo from the trip. And that has tons of photos of like, but that's more like a photo album where I gave a copy to Heath and my friends on the trip. And it's like hundreds of photos from a month and a half on the Mississippi River, which of course I was born in St. Louis, which is on the Mississippi River.
Right.
So I feel like a connection of the South and the Midwest. So I made this like photo book, but I just put everything in it because it was for my own memories. And then I gave it to my friend Clint, who does his publishing called Deadbeat Club. And he said, let's make a version. But I got all my negs developed and scanned at just a normal lab. And he was like, you need to drum scan these. And this sucks because it's like a losing money venture. Because he's like, you need drum scans of these to make them really look good. And I realized it would cost me like, I don't know, maybe like $2,000 or more to do it. And you never get it back. So you're just sort of going like, but I also want to like build my body of work. I want to make it. So finally I'm like, I told him, I was like, all right, I'll go get the drum scans. But it was just annoying because part of me didn't want to. Oh, but then I did drum scans for the Thrasher show and they looked so good. The scans looked so good that I was like, all right, it is worth it. But I know we're going to make this book and it's not a profitable endeavor. It's like, you make a book, you make like 200 of them or something.
Yeah.
But that was my next, and it's not like a real project, but it's something I'm going to go. I have to go fish out all the negatives to get the scans made. And I'm kind of dreading it, but it was actually one of my plans for tomorrow
Okay.
or the next day to go like dig up these negs. I don't know if that's like really hyping like a big job, but that's just something I wanted to do. So I might have a little photo book coming out.
Sweet.
Pictures from the Mississippi
photo book.
Me and Heath and Kai and my dog.
Something to look forward to, huh?
Yeah, we went from Hannibal, Missouri, which is where Mark Twain was born, to New Orleans.
Okay.
Well, we got on this other river called the Achalafa, and it was just a boat trip. It was like a goal, and I thought of it. I was like, hey, do you want to go from like St. Louis? We were originally going to do it on canoes, and I had a canoe, but Heath had a rowboat, and this other guy had a boat with a little engine on it, and it was like way gnarlier than I thought. And plus, we had 3 boats and 3 people. So actually, when we got back to St. Louis from Hannibal after about a week, I ditched the canoe because the other boat worked really good. So I alternated between Heath's boat and Kai's boat. And we just took boats down the Mississippi River for like a month and a half. And then I would do side trips to take pictures. So when we get to like Memphis, I would walk around Memphis all day taking pictures or Natchez or all these different cities we'd stop in. I would go take pictures. So I was trying to do, I don't know, tell a story about these cities. I mean, about these places. And I don't know. So I'm making a little photo book.
A photo book. All right, Patrick, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And maybe I'll get to come to Shanghai again soon.
Boom. That's it. Thanks so much for listening. Again, this episode of the podcast was brought to you by Kicker Club. If you are looking for the best source of skate-related content coming out of China, go follow Kicker Club on Instagram. That's KICKERCLUB. Also, this podcast relies heavily on listener support. If you enjoy listening to these episodes, please consider going to my website, observingtheprocess.com, to subscribe. It's only $5.99 a month or $50 for the year. When you subscribe, you're helping me create this content. Thanks for your support. Also, if you enjoyed the intro and outro music, it was made by my brother, Danny Greenberg. You can go and check out his beats on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, or SoundCloud. He goes by the name Estoric, ESTORIC. All right, that's it for now.